What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, where we are breaking down WrestleMania XL Sunday. Night 2 just ended of the biggest pay-per-view of the year for this whole extravaganza week. It's the culmination of everything that's happening here. A lot to talk about. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Well, last post show I'm ever going to be on for a WWE show. That's fine.
Well, you were talking about that yesterday, yeah. Today didn't do anything to make you think otherwise.
No.
We'll get into that. I'll also get some better lighting. Alexa, lights on. No? Okay, fine. I'll do that in a second. No, when I'm muted. But we, of course, as we go along here and we tell you guys what we have to say about everything that's happening, we won't know what you have to say. So chat it up live in the comments below. If you are listening live and you are on the live chat that's happening here, Frankie Peter, we got Pliskin, we got Marco, we got Marquise, we got Chris. What's up, everybody? Leave your chats there. If you want to make sure I notice something, then make sure you take advantage of the super chats as well. And of course, keep in mind all of these marketplace stuff we always talk about. Redbubble and TeePublic for merchandise options, which of course get you lots of entries in the Road to WrestleMania contest of the Rocky Maivia Funko Pop giveaway. Keep in mind that Smark Bandits tournament's also going on right now too, but also doubling back to this marketplace. If you want to help us out on the monetary side of things, a whole lot of different ways that you can do that. It's all greatly appreciated. Even $1 a month can go a long, long way in helping us out, because we are a small channel. We do not have the funding and the options to do things the way that these other places do and stuff. So if you want us to grow and you want us to become one of those places or better, take advantage of the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier, donate whatever you can. Obviously, your spare change is whatever you guys can afford or something is all just amazing. We appreciate everything. And there are completely free ways that you can help us out too. Hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, pass this along by hitting the share button. If you think people should be tuning in right now, pass it along right now. Tell your friends about this. Hop on, a Discord server like the one that we have, or obviously other ones as well. And, just spread the word about Smark Moment. All that stuff is, it's all going to help this be a much better Smark Moment going forward and everything. Yeah, man, there is a lot to talk about here. There's elements of this night that honestly there aren't a lot of things to talk about. This was a less packed show than last night. Do you get that kind of sense too?
Well, it was over in about an hour less time, so that was appreciated. I think it was a more streamlined show, which was an improvement. This was definitely the better night out of the two of them. But yeah, I'll still have quibbles about it. I still don't think it. I'm not gonna leave WrestleMania 40 thinking it was a great WrestleMania.
There we go. Now I got this one. You have any kind of placement of where you would put this on, a ranking scale or something? Obviously, you don't need to rank 40 WrestleManias, but is there a range or a comparison for it's the equivalent of that WrestleMania or anything?
Maybe the equivalent to a WrestleMania 37 maybe, which was a good WrestleMania, the first one back after the COVID stuff. So you had that kind of feel good thing, but there was still, it wasn't an overall amazing show, but it had that feel good aspect to it. So there's feel good aspects to this particular show, but it's kind of just, it's not one that I'm probably going to revisit in the future.
Just go back and rewatch the way you would 17 or.
Yeah, because there's nothing really. I'd say none of the matches stand out enough to me to make you want to go back and watch them again. It was actually maybe one match that is on this show that's okay, maybe I'll go back and watch that one again one more time. But yeah, there's not really much that I really want to. I've kind of seen it. Happy to have. Well, I say happy to have seen it, but I've seen it now. It's all good. It's in the memory now, and now I can just move on from it.
I obviously there are definitely things that I fully would agree with there. I still don't have really a whole lot of match of the year type things to harp on when it comes to this, and depending on your mileage for dealing more towards sports entertainment, more like psychology, more in-ring stuff, more whatever. There's different weights to different things too. And I'll say that, like, you know, tonight, I thought that some of the matches were better than the ones from last night. And then a couple of the other ones were just kind of meh too. You know, nothing like, oh, across the board, everything was amazing or anything. But of course, as you can tell by my reaction to this compared to last year, I am in a much better mood for the ending of this. So we had talked about this for, you know, over a year of the concept of, is that going to be what makes or breaks it? And I look back on this WrestleMania, I think already going, okay, there are things that I could nitpick. There are things that I could change if I were applying like the, you know, the blueprint project type of thing to this. It wouldn't be how I would book it for some of the elements of this. But I go into Monday Night Raw feeling like, okay, they've been harping on this whole, it's the Triple H era, and it's a new change and all that stuff. We're going to talk about how that can kind of get a little bit annoying too. And I actually feel like maybe we are on a good swing. Yeah. There's going to be bumps and stuff along the way, but I am feeling much more positive about this than I was last year. So I see that, like, Peter in the chat, worst WrestleMania ever. I've seen a lot of responses from people that are very, very pro this. Of course, some people are just like middle of range, like they were, you know, liking some of the matches, disliking some of the matches, all the, you know, the pros and cons to go along with that. I'm going to try to read some of the things in the chat here. It was a little shorter than yesterday. I watched the main event with a bunch of friends who don't keep up with wrestling, and they were all hyped up with me. That's really good to know. That is why we love this, from Marquise. Cody finished the story, and that's all I care about, from Chris. Peter was happy last year, not this year. We got a super chat from Ashton. Thank you, Ashton. Only the last 3 matches were worthwhile. The opener before the cash-in was the worst, in his opinion. So bad. The main event was what I expected, and that's good. So let's actually start getting into some of the specifics here, and obviously, you know, breaking down what's going on. Also, by the way, keep in mind, everybody, if you have any kind of issues going on with this, let me know. It's kind of looking a little bit to me like maybe my my audio might be like out of sync with my mouth or something. If it is, let me know. I'll try to mess around with my settings and stuff. But the opener for this show, outside of the pre-show, which there's nothing to talk about on the pre-show, is the same kind of stuff. It was National Anthem last night, and it was God Bless America tonight. So they had 2 opportunities to do the song that Vince always wanted to be for WrestleMania, and they didn't pick that song. Out of the 3 main ones, they went with the 2 other ones, which is just like, I don't know if that's like a distinct like FU kind of middle finger, but you know, I mean, you can interpret it that way. And I got nothing to say about like that, you know, other than what it was. Frankie in the chat says, great rendition, really liked it. What did you think of either that or the fact that Stephanie McMahon actually started the show off by welcoming everybody?
Well, I have nothing to say about the music. I think I had it muted still at that point, so I didn't even listen to that part. But Stephanie coming out, I don't feel good about the fact that someone who's just been named in that sexual assault case is on TV, even if she's not directly involved. She is named in that case. She's named as someone who had a certain amount of knowledge or understanding of it, and she's out there announcing that, like, welcome to WrestleMania, and being like the McMahon presence on the show, because out of the McMahon, she's one of the least problematic at the moment. But yeah, I think that it's I think it's icky to do that
because of the lawsuit going on.
Yeah, she's not the main target of it, but she is associated with it. She is named in it. She's involved in it. She almost certainly knew about it. Like, I can't like fathom a world where that was going on. Her being the daughter of the main culprit involved in this, and also being like one of the top executives at the time, someone who voted out Vince and then was involved in voting him back into the place and then leaving off the back of it. Obviously, because the fact that she left afterwards gives the indication that she didn't approve of it, but she didn't do anything to stop it. So yeah, I think that I don't think it's good that she was there.
Of course, like, we're not going to know anything until we know more information about what like specifics are for her being named in this, and like I don't know, there's elements we're never going to know anything about. But Michael Patrick in the chat here brings up a point of view that I've been seeing a lot of people, and I kind of lean towards this too. He says, I feel like they've investigated it internally and they're comfortable that she's in the clear, which is also kind of like, even if they investigate things, you still don't really know 100% what's going on either. So,
can I respond to that by saying they also investigated that internally and then decided to vote Vince McMahon back into the executive chairman position. So, true, yeah. in all fairness with that, Michael, that's not. It's hard
to put a lot of faith into it.
Yeah, hard to, yeah, exactly. I don't trust that at all. I don't trust their internal investigation because it came up with the wrong conclusion that he should be voted back into power.
And Ashton follows it up with, or maybe just because Triple H is in charge, which is like, yeah, that's a possibility too.
I saw so many takes on the thing because Triple H put out a photo of like him hugging Stephanie backstage, and then there were so many replies to that saying, "Oh, they're definitely divorced."
Because that's what you do, right? You just, it was the caption was just forever, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I mean, on the glass half full, glass half empty side of thing, like glass half empty, it's like, well, she's named in the lawsuit and, this is an icky thing to have anybody involved and all, which by the way, since we checked out the press conference stuff after we did the podcast yesterday, did you see the whole thing about Brock that they mentioned?
Oh yeah. Well, they mentioned, Michael Cole mentioned Brock on commentary in the build up to the main event. So yeah, that Brock is now a name that can be said on the show. He will be back.
Yeah, they had said, I forget who asked like Triple H, like exactly what they asked. I think they said to just like clarify some information about Brock or something. And he said, Brock's off doing Brock things and just like, living in the middle of nowhere. And he's not out of the company, but he's just not around. And they had talked to him about doing something for Royal Rumble, but they didn't really like specify and stuff. So kind of gives me the indication that it's exactly what we were expecting, which is go away and we'll see what's going on. We're not going to fire you outright and like do it with all the contract stuff, but let's not put you in the limelight while this is going on, which is the smart move to do because the last thing you need is to get more bad attention on that. As far as the Stephanie thing, I haven't seen any like real backlash online, but of course, yeah,
you're not following the right people.
There's different things on that. So I see people loving and hating similar things here and there. So maybe I wasn't paying too much attention because pretty much soon after that, it was like, hey, we're starting the first match. So I was like locked into doing my results and stuff, which Drew McIntyre had not broken dreams, which a lot of people thought was going to happen. A lot of disappointed people when it came to that. Instead, he had whatever the name was of the Scottish pipe band. I don't know, it's Philadelphia something or other. Doing I don't know the name of the song. It's just one of those songs that's like everybody knows the song, but I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. The one that Roddy Piper used to use. Do you happen to know the song's name? It's like
no, I don't know names of most.
It's
fans themes now.
Nobody knows like can anybody really name the song that's like the go-to Italian song that everybody uses? It's what it is. But I thought that was a pretty decent enough entrance, which it seems like that was their go-to this year. Was we don't want to spend money on props, we don't want to spend money on like big elaborate things, but we can get bands and we can get musicians and all. So that might be an indicator of what's going forward, that they prioritize that for future, like big special things, is just get local people to, or, musicians, if that's like a specific song or something for, maybe that's how they're going to do most of their special things going forward. What do you think about the Drew McIntyre entrance?
Yeah, it was fine. I don't think it was anything like super special about it. I think his entrance at Clash of the Castle was better than this one. So
I think so too. Yeah. That's like kind of my takeaway from most of WrestleMania entrances this year is none of them were really like, I didn't write a single one down for best entrance up until we got to the main event. That's the only one that I have down on my end of the year award so far, which is like, man, after 14 matches or whatever it is, you'd think that I would have at least like 3 or so. That's usually what happens with WrestleMania. And this year it's like, well, the pipe band, they did a good job. And then they just went into his theme. And Seth Rollins, he had the mummers. For anybody that's super into mummers, a friend of mine does the mummer stuff every single year. Two of my friends actually do that every single year, opposite mummers teams, but I'm not a mummers guy. So, Seth Rollins doing that. I saw a lot of people reacting saying, oh, is this Adam Rose?
Yeah, that's my kind of take on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It could have been better, could have been worse. I've never been the biggest fan of Rollins' team to begin with. So that's already something. Oh, we got another super chat here. Thank you, Pliskin. We got a $20 super chat. Thank you guys for all your hard work and content. Shout out to the Smark members as well. Maybe not the best WrestleMania, but this community makes up for it. No, that's awesome. Thank you, man. That's really greatly appreciated. And I agree. Like the more that we like chatted up with people, the more that, on the Discord, for instance, little plug again for, anybody who wants to join that Discord, there it is up on your screen. Hop on over there, bring more people in. When we can chat it up during these pay-per-views and stuff, it makes it way, way, way more fun. So, Peter's also out the Adam Rose thing as well. Don't forget, Michael Cole referenced Adam Rose and Hornswoggle in the entrance. He mentioned Hornswoggle. I don't think I caught that one, but that's a different era. Adam Rose, when we used to have like Becky Lynch be one of the Rosebuds and stuff. Braun Strowman, Zelina Vega. So the match itself. Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Of course, going into this match, we know that Rollins was injured, and then last night, that's like injured even more. The storyline is very much focused around his leg, and that became a big factor in here too. But Drew McIntyre was playing into his kind of nonchalance here and there, and this is something that I thought was great. I don't know if you had caught this, if you were paying attention to this on Twitter or not. So in the match, he grabs a phone and he actually tweeted out, bored at work, LOL. A little bit later on, he tweeted out something else we'll get around to. But I thought that the match, for the most part, solid.
This was my favorite match of the weekend up until later on in the show. I thought this was an excellent match. They just decided to go, okay, we're going to go finish a spam on this one. And essentially it was just immediate Claymore, get 2 count from that.
Starting that off with just the finisher right out. It's like PTSD from Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. Yeah.
And then just throwing Rollins around a little bit, but then Rollins getting a stomp, then more Claymores, more stomps. They went with the Brock Lesnar, went with a slightly more extended Brock versus Goldberg match from 33, I think it was. And just beat each other up a lot. I could have done the one criticism I have about this one in particular is the constant oh my god faces when they kicked out stuff. I know they were hitting them with their finishers, and so they'd be a little bit more disappointed about that. But it was a case of it was a bit overkill. Every single time someone kicked out, they were just grabbing their face and the big wide-eyed stuff. It's yeah. Yeah,
what is he going to have to do to win?
I don't need that all the time.
Yeah,
but I thought that this was just fun, quick. I think it was the action that it needed to be, and they took a different approach to basically every other match on this card and yesterday's card as well. So I thought that was quite refreshing.
They had, you said the finisher spamming here and there, of course they have the Future Shock DDT and stuff. I like that they did a spot where Rollins did a pedigree, but since he did it to the outside, he immediately was like, crap, my leg. Yeah, that's right. That's good little, kind of keeping that up instead of it being those types of moments where you go, wait a minute, didn't that person just work on your leg the whole previous match? And now you're doing a leg specific finisher or something, Like John Cena used to do that all the time. It'd be somebody's working on his arm. Oh, he could just pick him up and throw him, and it's nothing. But they had their good moments, and as far as Punk being on commentary, I had originally written down hey, he's not really doing all that much. And, he had his little insights here and there and stuff, but I was feeling at first this was a little underwhelming when it came to the Punk element.
He was botching a lot on commentary. He was fumbling around with his words quite a bit, which he was also doing on the kickoff show. It was something we haven't spoken about because we talked about it after recording yesterday because I didn't want to bring it up about the whole AEW announcement that they're going to show the footage.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it on that area yet.
I know Punk made I assume he made some quips about it on the countdown, but I didn't pay much attention.
I didn't catch any. Oh, somebody had put out something. I forget like what he was at like WWE World, and he was with I think the Miz, and said something about like, "Are you going to tattoo the attendance number?"
That was immediately after the show yesterday, I think, or it might have been in the World, yeah. But then that was just a jibe at Ospreay, because that's kind of there's one thing that I know people will probably go on me and be an AEW shill about it, because I do like AEW more, but it's a case of maybe WWE could have spent more time talking about WrestleMania this week rather than AEW, because it feels like they spent a huge amount of time talking about AEW. And now AEW are going to do the thing of like showing the Punk footage, which I agree. I would put it out there now. That's entirely petty and serves no purpose on the actual show whatsoever. But I kind of understand it after basically they've, like Tony Khan in particular, has had like gotten a full frontal assault this week from a lot of WWE and WWE associated people.
There's a limit of like in the interview with the Punk thing that we had talked about on the hot tags, where I was like, I don't really see anything wrong with it if he's just giving his opinion. But like, there's how many instances of bringing up AEW this week?
You can only poke the bear so much, and now they're going to respond to it. And I think that, and maybe this would just be pure speculation, but maybe Punk's slight misperformance or slightly more clunky thing is because he knows that something's going to be shown in this footage that he doesn't want to be seen, or he's going to have to think of a way of spinning it, because he's obviously given what his perspective of what he did, and he says, I just choked the guy a little bit. Whereas if we watch it, because there's a reason why he got fired, and apparently, at least by according to Meltzer and Alvarez, have like been reporting about it, and Sean Ross Sapp saying, "No, it's absolutely genuine. They're absolutely going to be doing this." Is that he wanted to play this clip a while ago, but chose not to do it. So he's kind of been keeping it in the chamber for an opportunity like this.
I'm curious as all hell. Like I want to see it so bad.
Put it this way. Now that it's come out there and now people have been talking about it, it's gonna draw a number.
Oh yeah,
and it might be underwhelming, but like you kind of like say like, okay, this is like a very very cheap ratings tactic, but it's gonna work. I think
so. It might end up being the most viewed episode of Dynamite, which is like
in a long time.
Which then you got to assume that WWE and them would be like. Hey, well, the only reason that they could do that is because they used CM Punk and he's in there, and it's like it's going to be back and forth, and
CM Punk draws one more number for AEW,
right? So yeah. So this whole situation with Punk is like, follow the podcast for the past however many years when Punk was like leaving WWE, and like, I was kind of like, it seems like he's a baby and whatever. And then like he's there and I'm like, it's good. Like, I'm really cool that CM Punk's back. And then, I'm not really liking his stuff. And then, it's interesting that he goes to WWE, but I'm not really whatever. And then like, this is a fucking roller coaster with this guy. And now we're in an era, I guess, where not a Triple H era, but the CM Punk backlash of AEW era, where I'm like, all right, WWE can stop taking the hits at AEW. AEW can stop doing that back and forth. If they're going to continue to both do that, I want them to be super petty and like,
absolutely.
Don't do like the type of back and forth where it's going to be like lame, like little things. I want you to be like balls to the wall, make it interesting. And this is definitely interesting.
I want this to be the start of it. I want this to be the start of them just taking, like, literally almost any time someone's interviewed, they're taking shots at the other company.
Yeah.
Like,
even if it's like they've never been in the other company.
Or realistically, they don't really have any problem with anybody in the other company.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people in AEW have taken the approach of, like, I know when like Tony Schiavone and Eddie Kingston have been interviewed about it, they would say, I don't fucking care. He's in another company now. I don't want to talk about this stuff. I want to talk about AEW instead. So, but clearly Tony Khan doesn't think that way, and neither did Bucks. So, and that's the thing that's important with this one. And I think they're going to try and make it into a storyline thing, because it's going to be the involvement of, this will probably be the vehicle that gets Jack Perry back into the company.
I can't imagine that it's going to have anything other than a positive when it comes to Jack Perry. Well, at least that's their intention. Yeah. Because who knows what it's actually shown, and if people are going to respond with like, oh, what a punk, or, not Punk being CM Punk, but like, like what a jackass or something for Jack Perry. There you go. It's a punk and a jackass.
But I think we can kind of like draw the line under the AEW talk now, because we'll get back to WrestleMania, because Drew McIntyre ended up winning the match as we expected.
Yeah, and of course, like when we see this thing on Dynamite, we'll talk about that on the hot tags, everyone. Like, don't worry, we're not going to not address that,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, CM Punk is on commentary for this, and I'm thinking it's kind of like, nothing's really happening and all. And Drew McIntyre eventually gets another Claymore. He goes for the pin, gets the pin, new champion. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm already down for this. Drew McIntyre winning, it sounds like a really good idea. And he starts hamming it up even more with Punk. Gets on top of the commentary table, and they're having a little, jaw-jacking session where Punk had a pretty good line. He's like, I don't think I ever won a title and had the crowd cheering somebody else's name than mine. And I was like, that's a good line, whatever. Drew McIntyre just keeps at it. So Punk eventually grabs his leg, flips him over. So he goes crashing on top of the commentary table, which was very sturdy tonight. A lot of people smacking into that and not breaking through it, and kicks him a couple more times. And as soon as it clicks into my brain what's happening, I had already been typing out, okay, the new champion is Drew McIntyre. And I hit publish on the updated current roster predictions for like the champions. What I had written down was prediction for the next champion, CM Punk or Damian Priest. And then the explanation, CM Punk is probably going to win the title unless Damian Priest has something to do with it and cashes in beforehand. I hit publish, and then I hear Damian Priest's theme hit, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep this page open. Damian Priest comes out, smashes Drew McIntyre in the face with the briefcase, cashes in, and our new heavyweight champion with a South of Heaven chokeslam is Damian Priest. And I thought this was fucking great. I loved it.
Yeah, I hated this. I can't help it because it's a case of, it's a cash-in, so there's like an excitement surrounding it. I just think they've done such a horrible job with Priest and the briefcase that it just felt like, okay, you've got McIntyre and you've put a lot of effort into McIntyre and getting him over strong as like a top heel. He's got a feud with Punk on the horizon. He's just beaten Seth Rollins and he's won the title in front of the crowd. And I know the kind of part of the issues I have with it is the fact that so Priest wins, which I think is lame because I think Priest is a mid-carder. And he's now holding the world championship. And I don't like mid-carders holding the world title. I think that after a whole year of Rollins holding this title and trying to make it relevant, I think McIntyre winning it was the closest they'd come to making it relevant. And then they've immediately slapped it onto a mid-card guy. And I think that's immediately devalued it again. It feels even more of a mid-card title than it did.
There's a big distinction between who is holding the two world titles right now. Yeah, that's for sure.
And it's like, we'll see what they do with Priest holding it. I just don't have a lot of confidence. I feel like they just felt, we can do this cool moment, and this is a giant albatross that we've got around like a Priest neck at the moment, and he needs to get rid of this briefcase, so let's have him cash in here. I think that he'll lose it at least by Clash of the Castle. I think they might do a thing of having Drew McIntyre be the de facto babyface going into that match and winning it back there.
So that Clash of the Castle is before SummerSlam.
It's in June, yeah.
It's June, okay, because did they say what the pay-per-view with July is yet? I don't remember offhand now.
It'll be Money in the Bank, won't it?
It could be. I mean, it pretty much would have to be because we've got Backlash coming up next at the beginning of May. They confirmed tonight King and Queen of the Ring is actually going to, we would assume is going to return. They announced it last year and they ended up switching it tonight to Champions. So King and Queen of the Ring is happening May 25th at the Jeddah Superdome. And then, Clash of the Castle in June. And then, so Money in the Bank is July, and it's got, the tie-in with Heat Wave and all. I think that maybe Damian Priest might not necessarily even be champion by Clash at the Castle, actually. No, I think that there's a chance he could lose this at like either Backlash or King and Queen of the Ring.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that. I don't think he's going to have a long reign, put it that way.
Mm.
And I think they just did it for the moment, and the fact that they meant that they could finally get the briefcase off of him. So, it's only the second time someone's cashed in at WrestleMania, and give it a bit more of a shock moment. But I think that overall, it's a detriment to both the title and Drew McIntyre's kind of aura going into this. I know the whole story about it is, Punk cost him because Punk attacked him, and that builds up their rivalry. But Punk, as far as we know, Punk's still not going to be wrestling for a few months at the earliest.
Yeah, they haven't been able to specify when he's going to be returning.
Yeah. And so it's a case of if Punk was almost ready to go in like a month or two, then I'd say, like, okay, that's fine, because you can have the big match coming up soon. Maybe Punk could go suck a blood-covered dick in Saudi Arabia as well. But,
it's gonna be interesting to see him have to do that, right? But not that specifically, but you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's booked on the card, then that's a whole other story too. Yeah. There was a point when I forget what it was. It was I think it would have been the main event where somebody was saying on commentary, so-and-so tries to dethrone so-and-so, and I thought that they said deep throat, and I was like, oh wait, no. Like that's a whole different story than what people were tweeting out with this, which is bisexual Undertaker became champion. That's the bisexual Undertaker and goth China are the Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest pair, apparently.
But then also the other aspect of this is the fact that now Priest has won the world title, and it wasn't about, the moment really wasn't about him. It was about Punk screwing McIntyre. So even in the moment of Priest winning the title, it wasn't about him. It was about the two people the one person that helped him win it and the person that he beat. So yeah, I think overall, you'll say it's a cool moment, and if people were big fans of Judgment Day and Priest, then I'm sure it was like a bigger deal for them. I know you're a bigger fan of Priest than I am. Yeah. So you probably would have a bit more of a favourable reaction as you did. So I'd say if you do have that reaction, you're more than entitled to have it. But for me, I think it kind of ruined the moment for me. I really enjoyed the match, and I really enjoyed McIntyre winning, and seeing him lose was I thought it was pretty disheartening.
I feel like this is one of those moments that definitely, I mean, there's certain things in WrestleMania that moment trumps the elements around the moment in a lot of ways. And, we've seen like instances in the past where like, the build up for, we always talk about the build up before Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair was like straight up trash because they just knew, well, the moment's going to be fine. And this is one of those things that like the moment, very, very cool in my mind. I am a bigger fan of Priest, so like I like the idea that he is a world champion now and that there's the potential for this to go forward. It's just I'm realistic enough to assume it's probably not necessarily going to be the biggest and best world title reign for Damian Priest. And I want them to prove me wrong about that because I'd like him to actually reach that status where we look at him as like a worthwhile world heavyweight champion, but anytime somebody makes that step up from mid-card guy who can't win the main event and doesn't even necessarily get the main event spot even without winning the championship, like obviously, there are people like Sami Zayn, we always talked about with the Money in the Bank stuff, the Intercontinental title and all, but like Gunther, I would think if you put the title on him, world heavyweight title, WWE title, when you put the belt on him, I'm already going to go, okay, he's world heavyweight champion guy. Like they've done enough to build him up to that level. Priest was in a mid-card spot. He's a tag team champion and all. They're going to have to establish him as a world heavyweight champion. Unless they just plan on having it be like, well, the moment was the moment. And then after that point, it doesn't really matter. And he drops it super fast or something. And then if that's the case, he's probably never going to win a world title again. So if they have an investment in him, they need to spend these next few weeks, months, however long they plan on doing that. It needs to be like full push mode and not, he won the title, he had his moment, so let's just let him kind of simmer with that. Like, no, you need to give him some wins that matter. You need to have him booked for a prominent spot at the next pay-per-view. He needs to come out on Monday Night Raw and maybe like kick some people out of the Judgment Day or something, like establish some authority, not just hang around with like, JD McDonough's a loser and he's going to lose all of the matches heading up into all of my future feuds or something, because that'll just be the same kind of situation. And then we have more of the world heavyweight title. That's definitely the B title. And you got to kind of break out of that. So there's positive potential. There's realistic, maybe not necessarily how it's going to work out type of perspective, but at least for this moment itself, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I really like this. So in a bubble, major thumbs up for me. And if Drew McIntyre hasn't re-signed, maybe that's another reason why. If he has re-signed, which I assume he probably did, because why are they promoting Clash of the Castle with Drew McIntyre prominently on there? Then he'll come back around. He'll win that title, So after that was the announcement that Snoop Dogg was joining commentary, and I was like, I don't know what's happening here. And then the announcement of a special guest referee for the next match, which was Bubba Ray Dudley. And one of the first things I had seen that I thought was really funny was people taking pictures of that and posting this on Twitter and saying, "Why is Alex Jones here?" It's like, okay, it does kind of look like.
I mean, I added a couple of comments ahead. It's kind of I was kind of nervous about the first time he went to do a pin count, because it's, by the look of him, he struggled to get back to his feet afterwards.
I mean, he didn't go for many pin counts in this.
Yeah.
He kind of stood off to the side.
Yeah. And also just the obvious fear of the case of, God, this guy has no impartiality, or like in terms of this AEW and WWE stuff, like just another paid shill, and that's fine. I'd say I would like people that are clearly paid shills who just own the fact that they're paid shills, and just say like, oh yeah, I'm rather than just say I'm trying to be impartial and I'm just have these criticisms about AEW, because everyone has criticisms about AEW, everyone has criticisms about WWE. Then neither of them are perfect promotions, but the fact that he lays it on so thick in the guise of like, I'm just trying to help and give some advice, and then comes out wearing a WWE referee shirt and like he's just doing all that stuff. I can understand it. It's Philadelphia, and they're doing like an ECW kind of tribute thing with the Paul Heyman stuff as well. So there was logic for the reason doing it. I just think that he doesn't do himself any favors if he wants to be seen as like this impartial voice of reason, which is probably not. He just wants to be just any one of these like talk show or radio host that just wants to have a strong opinion and get people talking about what that strong opinion.
Like Beatty.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get plenty out of this as well.
Maybe one of the reasons why those podcasts that I put up that say like Crown Jewel sucked and whatever end up doing so much better than the ones where I'm like, hey, it's pay-per-view review.
You know what does suck though?
Person that was deep throating for the championship there.
No. I just completely forgot what their name is. What's it
Karrion
called?
Kross's group?
They're the Final Testament.
Final Testament.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the Philadelphia Street Fight was that match. It was Pride against Final Testament, which they really like. They do not want to call Street Profits and Bobby Lashley the Pride. They are never calling them that ever, but they call Final Testament Final Testament.
This is probably harsh about me saying this looking the way that I do, but Karrion Kross looks like shit. He looks horrible. Like it's the face, like the facial hair, the construction of that. It doesn't work for him. And to be fair, nothing that has ever happened on the main roster for him has ever worked. Yeah,
the other alternative look with the gladiator outfit wasn't a good one either.
No, it's better than that, but I think he needs, honestly, he needs to go properly, and he can take Akam, Rezar, and Scarlett can stay, but the rest of them can all go. But and this match was, okay. It was fine.
It was messy.
The best spot of the whole weekend was them laying Karrion Kross on that table and just breaking immediately.
So they go throughout this match, and one of the first
so many
things,
kendo sticks,
which they were even breaking and all. Akam or Rezar, I don't remember which one's which, was like holding up one of the broken ends of that, and the great commentary that I always get when I'm watching a show with Caroline. She's like, "Is he holding up a big tampon?" I'm like, no, that's the end of a kendo stick. It's not. That'd be a really different Philadelphia street fight. I mean, I've seen worse in Philly. But Corey Graves had mentioned at the beginning of this. He said this is the first time that anybody in the Final Testament had been at WrestleMania, including Paul Ellering. I was like, really? I would have thought that he would have been a part of that, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, when would he have actually? Because like the LOD 2000 was the whole Sunny thing and the Chicago Street Fight and whatever, and before that, like there wasn't really a whole lot of Road Warriors stuff at WrestleMania. It's just like kind of one of those gaps where you just kind of go, well, of course Razor Ramon was in the Royal Rumble. And then you're like, no, he wasn't at all, ever. Okay, shit.
Yeah, it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, I know how involved he was with the Road Warriors Act in different points of his career. But I've seen other people that describe it, and I kind of agree with them that if there's anybody in WWE that's like stealing a living, it's Paul Ellering.
I don't know what he's doing in this group.
He doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
I don't think he's ever really done anything. I mean, I know he cut promos for Akam Rezar. I don't think he's a particularly like outstanding promo for a manager.
Of the 3 Pauls that are out there right now, because it's totally Paul City. They're just missing Big Show. He's the third of the 3 Pauls for cutting a promo with Levesque and Heyman and himself.
Yeah, I hear people talk about it, like, say, legendary manager Paul Ellering and all this involvement. It's just like, he's never done anything. He never did anything for the Road Warriors either. The only reason he was their manager, because he was their legitimate manager that did all the travel arrangements and got them out of bed, because they were probably stoned out of their mind or like drugged up out of their minds, having to get out of the shows.
Rolls him out and hands him the ring gear, and he's like, come on.
Because he's basically their handler.
Yeah.
More than like their manager, really. And so now he's just doing the same for Akam and Rezar, but like, I mean, this group's not going to work.
No. This this isn't really like a death knell thing where like losing at WrestleMania is what's going to kayfabe screw them over and they're going to split up, but like
it's just all the members and the presentation and the fact they lose all their matches.
It's everything leading up to this, and the fact that they still couldn't even get a win here, and the match itself was messy, and they like, I know that like if I were to ask the more casual wrestling fans of mine that were going, like a bunch of different people that I know were here today, and not here like, you know, in the apartment, but like here at WrestleMania, and I know that like the vast majority of them don't pay anywhere near as much attention as like you and I, or like anybody that's actually, you know, analyzing things and stuff.
Yeah. I
bet if I were to ask them who is in the Final Testament, they probably would go, isn't that Karrion Kross guy? And then I remember those two, and that's Karrion Kross's girl, and I don't know who the guy is. And when did they become a team? Like, they probably wouldn't have any real sensibility for it. And I don't blame them, because it's not like the Final Testament's done anything. They've mostly just attacked the Pride and stalled until WrestleMania and then lost to this. And, you know, this was a messy match with like, there aren't really any moments in there that stand out outside of like, I know I had written down like, man, everything that B-Fab and Scarlett are doing just wasn't good. And there was that moment where the crowd really wanted to see Bubba do something. And I'm of 2 opinions about this. Before that had happened in the match, I had sent a message to, I think it was the group chat with you and Rob, where I was like, I really like that Bubba Ray Dudley's special guest referee, because I want them to lean more into these kind of things with the future of like bringing in a legend to do something that's like a cool little guest spot. And then when this happened and the crowd's chanting for Bubba, I was like, he is kind of distracting a little bit from the other people, because people are just waiting for the big act to do something. So I can see where certain situations it might not be necessarily worth bringing somebody in, but
see, this is one of the situations where, in general, I'd agree with that point. But I thought that because this match was so cold and because nobody really cared about it, this was the perfect time to put a legend to actually add a bit of interest into this match by putting him into it. Otherwise, it would just been unbelievably flat throughout. It was still flat throughout for the most part, but at least the Bubba Spot's involvement, like his involvement in it, livened the crowd up a little bit, and they were chanting for tables because
they always do.
Because everyone just wants to see tables in every match. I kind of hope for, like, I don't care whether this WWE, AEW, NXT, any just random indie show, they just do a match, they just do a show, and in every single match on that show there is a table spot, and they just keep doing it over and over and over again. Or I want a match where literally every move is for a table.
Like instead of Lockdown that TNA used to have where everything's a cage match, it's just everything's a tables match.
Yeah.
And you start off the match immediately grabbing tables.
Yeah, exactly.
They should. Like, just get the crowd to reach a point where they go, maybe enough tables.
Yeah.
We want chairs.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, this match was pretty, like, as I say, sloppy in spots, and the finish was awful in particular. I mean, the only really, like, super cool spot was the Montez forward dive over the corner to Akam and Rezar, which wiped them out of the match for the next, like, 3 minutes. Like, it was just a dive to the outside, and they were just done at that point. But I mean, I guess that these teams can just be fortunate that the Jimmy Uso Jey Uso match existed this weekend, so like to take away the worst match of the weekend card from there.
And that's just like Snoop Dogg's on commentary saying things like when the tables came out, he's like, "Oh, they're getting picnic tables. Yogi Bear is going to get a table and whatever," and like that's distracting enough as it is, and call the police and. They do a whole thing with Bubba, and he just decides like, nah, fuck it, I'm against the Final Testament, so let me orchestrate like the Street Profits doing the "What's Up" headbutt, and he gets them to do the whole big countdown, 3, 2, 1, get the tables, and they get a table. They put Karrion Kross, and it immediately just. And it's like, oh my God. So let's go get another table. And Tez just seemed like he was annoyed about that because he grabbed a kendo stick and just started whacking Karrion Kross like, oh, damn it, motherfucker. Why did this fucking work? Okay, let's get the other thing. And he does this jump and they get the win with the frog splash and all. So it's like, I had written down on it, this was a mess, but parts of it were fun enough that if you shut your brain off, then it delivered enough. Because it's just like, yeah, this is like, this is not going to go down on anybody's list of like a match of the night, match of the year. It was messy and sloppy, but people popped and, whatever. Fine enough for filler to me. And that turned into, unless you got anything else to say about this segment.
No. As I say, they're just fortunate that there was another much worse match. On reflection, like just after sleeping on it and then just going, I was way too lenient on that Jimmy Uso Jey Uso match.
I have to go back and rewatch it because I saw like a lot of people were saying it's like one of the worst in WrestleMania history, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I saw Brett and Vince.
I think that's a bit too like hyperbole for the moment thing, but I think for a match, I think it could be the most disappointing match in WrestleMania history.
I could see that because they seemed like they were going to have a lot more potential than what they did. Yeah,
because like with Bret and Vince, like how good is that going to be with with post-stroke victim Bret Hart against like 60-odd-year-old Vince McMahon? Obviously, like Vince McMahon Pat McAfee match exists as well, and that's in my mind that's what I immediately think of the like worst WrestleMania match of all time. But yeah, in terms of like just overall just being disappointing, like what could have been to what we got, that's definitely high up there.
And that led into the LA Knight versus AJ Styles match, which as far as like special entrances go, LA Knight has this whole Slim Jim tie-in thing, and so I had said like, man, I love the whole Slim Jim tie-in because I don't care about the car they awarded some like sports car or whatever it is, some sweepstakes people, but I'm not a car guy, so it doesn't do shit for me. I don't even like Slim Jims. I've only had them like once or twice in my life. I thought it was like weird that you can't actually snap into them. I was just like, all right, let me finally snap into a Slim Jim. Oh, it's chewy. This is kind of gross. I'm not a beef jerky guy to begin with and all, but I love the connection between like growing up watching the Macho Man stuff. So it's always snap into a Slim Jim is like a built-in tie-in for wrestling to me, in the same way that like I wish that they had, instead of the stuff around ringside, I wish they just brought back that Goodyear blimp thing that they used to do. Like just have that flying around in the stadiums. But the best part about this Slim Jim ad, and I'm like, I'm so proud of my Philly type brethren. They cut to the crowd, and they're the Long Boy gang of these people all celebrating about Slim Jims, and immediately this one guy is deep throating. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that this had happened because I'm like barely paying attention. I'm like, oh, they're just promoting whatever. And I get a message from my friend Nick, and he's like, oh my God, did you see the guy deep throating it? I'm like, nope, let me go back and check. And if you go on the post on eWrestling News, everybody, you'll see that there's a section where I say, I'm proud of the crowd's response to this goofing around doing this. And I have a link to somebody's tweet about that. Immediately when the guy's on camera, the first thing he does is just like, I'm just going to go full full hog, I guess I could say, on this.
Sucking a blood-covered Slim Jim in Philadelphia.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, this is my area.
Yeah.
Of course.
I thought you were gonna mock the woman getting the sweepstakes thing, because she looked like she's like, I didn't sign up to being on camera, so
she's like, thank you, thank you for whatever this is. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to drive this race car. Oh, we got a super chat again from Ashton. Thank you, Ashton. Wait, people are disappointed by the USO match. I wasn't looking forward to it at all. I stopped caring about that in September. Jimmy showed me nothing after. Yeah, if you have low expectations going into it, I guess it wasn't as much, but I was super hyped for it.
I had super low expectations, and even now I still think it's one of the most disappointing matches that is.
Well, talk about disappointments.
Yeah.
And when it comes to entrances, we get this whole thing about AJ Styles, and it's like he's going to get a new entrance, his new theme and whatever. I couldn't tell you a word that was said in here, because he comes out and it's some generic song, and within like 5 seconds or so, he's running to the ring and it's over. And I'm like, man, what a great entrance that was. It's like, you already are in an era where nobody can tell you what most of these people's themes are, because you can't have the glass shatter and it's immediately Stone Cold's coming out, or the, Bret Hart's guitar riff or something. Most of these people, you have to look at the screen to figure out who's coming out, unless it just flat out says like, the Iconics and then something or whatever. AJ's new theme, I don't even know if I like it or not, because I don't know what the hell I listened to. He just was like, fuck this, I'm going in the ring.
Yeah, I tried listening to it to see like if it was anything special. I thought, well, my hope was it was going to be one of his old themes that was going to return. I thought, because now they seem to be leaning on like this somewhat semi-good relationship with TNA, they were going to get his TNA
Ready to Fly thing.
Yeah.
I forget how it goes, but that's part of it.
That, I was thinking it was either that, or that he'd get Demigods, his Ring of Honor theme, because I really like that theme as well. And but then he just came out to just some generic. I always forget this group's name. Death Rebel. That's it. Just generic, like, okay, let's put something together for it. Oh, you don't want none. It's just like that. I don't know.
Did it say you don't want none in it?
I don't remember. Like, literally, it left zero impression on me, because, as I say, like, he comes out, he takes the jacket off, does this little pose. It still says phenomenal on it, which is going against kind of what he was saying in his interviews leading up to it. Like, I can't be phenomenal forever. It's just like, oh, it still says phenomenal, and I'm still coming out as the phenomenal AJ Styles and doing my usual pose, and then I just run to the ring, cut off Samantha for Irvin's announcement, which I'm sure a lot of people were annoyed of as well. Yeah, it was a completely forgettable introduction to a song which seems completely forgettable immediately. I'm almost certain that in a few months' time they're going to revert back to this old thing.
I would assume so. Yeah, we've had a couple instances of that over the, like, I think it was like Dolph Ziggler had a new theme. At least he had a new haircut at one point.
Oh, the brown hair guy. Yeah, that was a bad period.
Weird. I don't know why they had done that when they did. But they've had a couple times where somebody's had a new theme, like Sami Zayn's using his old theme instead of doing that kind of thing that he had. But during this match, which the match itself, I wasn't really digging, to be honest, but the crowd wasn't either. And I was like, something's up about this. And apparently that's because they couldn't see the damn match. There was a huge spotlight that was on that was just blinding the crowd. And I've seen pictures of this from, friends of mine have sent stuff to me and whatever. Awful spotlight, to where they were chanting, "We can't see." They were chanting, "Fuck that light. Turn the lights off." I don't blame them. If you can barely see during this thing and you're like looking at this, it's going to be like, oh man, all right, let me try to like that. You already can't see a lot unless you're in like a really good seat to begin with. And if it's blocking you from watching the TV screen, what else can you do other than bitch and complain during the match? And that sucks for LA Knight and AJ Styles, but I don't think that they did anything that was really like, you missed out on a fantastic match otherwise. It was just a match.
Yeah, as I say, it was like, my eyes kind of like glazed over during it. Like I say, I don't think it was a particularly bad match, but I didn't really get anything out of it whatsoever. As I just felt like any random match that you get on like a B-level pay-per-view or even an episode of Raw or SmackDown, like I didn't get the impression that, you know, this is a big moment for LA Knight getting the victory over AJ Styles, but it doesn't feel that big because AJ Styles feels so watered down for where he was like a couple of years ago even. and yeah, I just said that like LA Knight, as I said in the build up to it, like LA Knight just doesn't have a high enough ceiling in terms of match quality to deliver something super special and just like take this moment by the scruff of the neck and say, okay, I'm going to make this like the match of my career. And it's just like, okay, this is just about as good as you can do, which is like, you know, the best LA Knight can do is like a 6, 7 out of 10 match. And that's, you know, it's fine because his prime ability can make up for it for the most part.
Yeah,
he's just at the moment he's a more at the moment he's just a more over Miz that's a babyface.
And it kind of gives me this. I don't want to be like too sour on this, but the fact that a couple months ago we were all talking about the idea of like that seemed like he would be potentially in the running for the United States title, and a lot of people were, I think, deluding themselves when they were like, oh, maybe he's going to be even in the world championship picture and all this. I didn't think that there was like a chance for that, but the fact that they decided to just go with this singles match as a random undercard, non-gimmicky, non-title sort of do nothing feud that went on for a long while, because this goes back from basically Crown Jewel, like a little bit before Crown Jewel. I forget the pay-per-views before that. I think it was Fastlane. That is like maybe as good of an indicator as any that maybe they don't really see too much in LA Knight. And they were like, hey, he's over enough that if we give him a mid-card, just undercard match, we give him a match with somebody like AJ Styles that we don't really have anything else in mind for, then that's fine, and we don't need to really invest too much in him, because I'm not getting the sense from even this victory that LA Knight is suddenly going to be like the next person to fight Logan Paul. It still could happen, and they could have a plan to do that in the future, but I don't know. It's not giving me a good vibe for the longevity of this push. I think that they are kind of over it a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a real possibility they're going full Rusev Day on this in terms of like,
that's a good
this a guy that has got organically over, but they're not going to go with it because he's not their guy, which doesn't seem to align that much in the Triple H era. But you know, that's some things never change. But I think that I still think he's going to beat Logan Paul for the title. I just think by the time he wins it, he's going to be way less over than he was like this time last year.
It already feels like it's kind of waning.
Yeah, and that's the perfect time they actually put a title on the guy, when their momentum is waning rather than the peak of their powers.
But we got a lot of yes tonight still, so yeah. I hope that he's happy with that. I hope Styles is happy with that. Somebody had put out something out there, I'm forgetting who on Twitter, but they were like, AJ Styles has had matches with this person and that person, whatever. Why is his best match against Shane McMahon?
His best WrestleMania match. Yeah, it's still his best WrestleMania match. And pretty much now at this point in his career, his best WrestleMania match is always going to be against Shane McMahon.
Like, he's got to turn it up a little bit next year. Give us something like a total massive classic or something.
Needs John Cena to come back.
Maybe.
Well, he did come back tonight, but he needs to wrestle him one more time.
Beat up John Cena again. Then we had the King of Queen of the Ring announcement. We had the Hall of Fame parade. For anybody who's wondering about Caroline's commentary for that, she said it looks like they're on a singing competition show, standing on all the little stars, and that like one of them's about to be eliminated or something.
It was just odd this year because like, I know it's the case because they're the Hall of Famers, so you do expect it to be like this, but they all look so old this year.
Yeah.
But, like, in particular, like outside of Nakano and Heyman, they all looked like just ancient, really.
Like Briscoe's out there with Thunderbolt Patterson, of course, in the wheelchair. You got Ata Johnson representing Liam Ivia. Muhammad Ali, of course, isn't there because, for obvious reasons. And like, they kind of swept this as like very quick to me. Like, US Express had their Bray Wyatt shirts. So that got a little bit of a pop too.
It's a bit annoying because then, as WWE's camera work has vastly improved over the last couple of months, but Paul Nakano was doing something with a pair of nunchucks.
Yeah,
and this was the point they had a wide shot, and they only went to zoom in as soon as she stopped doing it. It's like, okay, there's good timing with that.
Yeah, missed out on that one. There was another thing, I forget what it was later on in the night. Somebody was like doing a move in the corner, and actually it might have been in the LA Knight match where they like somebody was doing something in the corner, and it was very clear that they needed a shot from a side angle where like the turnbuckle is here and the person's off on the side, and they had the complete opposite angle, and it was like you got to run around the ring, and he barely ended up getting it. So that was just kind of meh. Frankie brings up a good point. Random thought, but they didn't officially announce the Mania 41 location. They usually do that. Yeah, they didn't say anything.
I assume they're still. I think they're probably still in negotiation for it with certain. I think now, well, it's been this way for a while, but WrestleMania is such a hot ticket now that I think they're probably being able to jack up prices and get other people to bid for it a lot more.
They're like talking to Minnesota, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to not announce that you're probably in the lead. Wait until like Sunday." And then they call them back up again, and they're like, "You're gonna tack a couple zeros."
Yes,
and. Yeah, it seems like it's between Minnesota and Vegas, and I'm not going to go to either of them. But
no.
I mean, if they want to send me out, I'll fucking do it. That'd be great. But I've never had really an itch to go to either place for any reason necessarily. And if people were talking about how cold it was, like at WrestleMania this year, if you go to Minnesota, it's gonna be way colder than that.
Minnesota seems like an odd choice, just from an outsider's perspective. Like I say, someone who doesn't know American geography that well.
It's not one of the go-to things. Like
the only reason I would assume to go to Minnesota for WrestleMania is that they're putting Brock in the Hall of Fame.
That could be. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I mean, the biggest reason I would think is like they have like a relatively new stadium. So it might be like, let's set a record for that and let's try to cram more people in there and all. There's a dome for the one, according to Frankie and Ashton. So maybe they could just dome it up and not have to worry about the weather. But most of the time when people are thinking like places in America that you would want to have like the big show kind of thing, not Paul White, but you think like New York, California, Florida, Chicago, maybe like Detroit, Philadelphia is in like that B tier with Detroit and stuff. Like it's not really the main go-to ones like New York and LA and all, but Minnesota wouldn't be a go-to pick that I would think. And there's got to be a reason why. Maybe they were just willing to pay more, but they still haven't announced it yet. So for all we know, maybe they're doing that even on the press conference or something, that they'll just be like, hey, mate, by the way, WrestleMania 41 is going to be in like Tennessee, or I'd be really shocked if it was like, hey, Wyoming, we're coming there. Like, certain states just don't get a whole lot of action. As far as the Hall of Fame parade, though, they go ahead and they take care of that. They go into the third to last match of the night, which was the triple threat match for the United States Championship. Logan Paul coming out on a tank with a Prime bottle cannon and with a Prime bottle mascot person that I had written out. I was assuming it was KSI. Turned out to be wrong. I don't know what the cannon thing was necessarily all for. Like it was him like shooting the sign and pyro going off. I thought he was going to shoot Prime bottles into the crowd, and that didn't work. So I was like, meh, okay. You want to get more sponsorship stuff for Prime, and I get it. There's better entrance than some of the other people had, but still not going on my end of the year awards. And I actually enjoyed more so the other entrance. So Kevin Owens comes out, and he's got waiting for him at the entrance, Sami Zayn, who holds up his belt. He's like, all right, now it's your turn. I was like, that's nice. A little friendship kind of thing from last night. And I like that little reference. What about you?
I liked it, and then he didn't win the title, so it felt bad.
Well, he gets on a cart and he drives a little bit, and Randy Orton starts coming out, and Kevin Owens backs up the cart and gets Randy Orton on top and drives the two of them down because they're just like best buds now. And Orton is like telling him to slow down, and you can see that he's like almost falling and stuff. And I just thought that was kind of funny. they kept that whole friendship thing up for quite a while in this. They're double teaming Logan Paul, and there's a moment in there where they go for a pinfall. And of course, that's usually the way that a lot of these end up working is once you get that first pinfall and both go for it, hey, what are you doing? I'm supposed to win this match kind of thing. And I like that Owens was like, I mean, only one of us can win. Do you want to do this now? And Orton's like, no, whatever. Goes for the RKO, misses, and has this look on his face where he's like, and the crowd's chanting, you fucked up. Okay, you want to do it now? Okay, let's go and we start fighting. I thought that was a good little moment.
Yeah, I thought this match was pretty fun.
Yeah, this was my favorite match at that point.
Most Logan Paul matches are very fun, and there were some cool spots in this. They were doing some stuff on like the outside. Paul was getting involved in it, like the Karrion Owens and Randy Orton double team where they're just like stomping the hell out of him was a lot of fun because it's always fun to see Logan Paul get beaten up.
Yeah, I'm not going to be opposed to that.
But yeah, but there's some cool like bits of athleticism from Logan Paul, like jumping up to top ropes and stuff, and Kevin Owens doing a few dives, and the finish was really good with like having Owens goes for a pop-up powerbomb on Orton. Orton manages to turn that into an RKO, which I thought was an excellent transition.
Yeah,
that was a great reversal. But then Paul, and they do a cool thing with this as well, with like Paul goes to throw. You think it's the classic, like heel comes in after the babyface hits big move to take the pinfall, but Orton looks like he's reversed it, but then Paul reverses it again, knocks him off like the turnbuckle or something, then climbs up, hits a massive frog splash. Like I say, Montez Ford is hard to beat in terms of that, but he gave it the best shot possible to try and get as much elevation as possible and gets the victory. And I thought that Logan Paul was going to get the victory here. But yeah, I thought they had a pretty fun triple threat.
Yeah, I like this match from start to finish. Like, if you're going to go back and rewatch some of the matches from WrestleMania this weekend, I think this is on the list. They had some fun little moments with like, you know, trying to get like the brass knuckles involved, and pretty much any Logan Paul match, there's going to be good like aerial maneuvers and stuff. It's like Ricochet, Joaquin Wilde, Dragon Lee. There's just a handful of names that, you know, like Io Sky, you know, are going to be able to do some good stuff like that. The mascot turned out to be somebody named I Show Speed, which certain amount of people that I know were like, oh, it's I Show Speed. And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is.
So he's a Twitch streamer, of course. It's like someone else who's kind of like very internet famous. He's a massive cunt. Really? Like, he is such
like a real piece of shit.
Well, he's not like one of those people that's like, you know, he's never done, at least to my knowledge, the Logan Paul going to a forest in Japan and film someone who's just hung himself. But he is like just really, really annoying. And the biggest things that he's like known for is just like screaming into cameras and stuff like that. Like he's very loud, he's very obnoxious. He's very like American in the fact that like he's like he likes football games or soccer games and stuff like that, but he only really is interested in like Ronaldo and like the big ones, and then he just plays games like FIFA, but he only is interested in certain people in that regard. He's more interested in players than actual teams. So like if let's say Ronaldo moved from one club to another, he'd start supporting that club, which is just not how you're supposed to do things. But it's a very American approach to things. Like people who are fans of like LeBron James, they follow LeBron James rather than they follow the teams that he plays for. But yeah, he's really, really annoying. I kind of hoped it was KSI still, because KSI can be annoying, but he's a bit more grounded and he's a bit more of a, you know, professional, whereas ISP is just an irritant. But I guess they wanted to mix it up and give it and introduce it to another fan base, because he is I'll never do anything. It's a generation that's below me, but it's a case of for some reason he's like hugely popular among like teen audiences. They wanted to introduce into their fan base, which is, you know, it's a very smart business move.
Pretty much across the board, I sound like an old man when I say these things. I don't get what Gen Z and Gen Alpha find entertaining about most of the people that they find really entertaining. I'm like, I'll be the full blown millennial, just like, these people are not fun. I don't care about watching Twitch streamers yell like at the top of their lungs, and I've never been into the YouTube generation of, hey guys, what's up, everybody smash that like button. I'm like, calm the fuck down, you know.
So he's got 23.5 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's had like 2.2 billion total views, so you know, it's a big deal. Just seeing, like, I assume
travesty that he has more than we do.
Well, yeah, well, it's a shame that anyone has more than we do.
That's true.
But, I'm trying to look at
smash that like button and you change it. Yeah,
I'm trying to look at some like controversial stuff that he's done in the past, which is plentiful, really. I'm just looking at this one. So, on August 16, 2023, during a live stream, Watkins jumped up from his seat due to being jump scared while playing Five Nights at Freddy's and accidentally flashed his penis to a live viewership of 25,000 people. He subsequently ended the live stream out of embarrassment. Viewers uploaded a clip on social media, and the term "I show meat" in reference to the slang word meat began trending on Reddit and X.
That's great.
Due to the accidental nature of the incident, YouTube has since declined to strike his channel or ban him for it, because like he didn't intentionally get his penis out. It just happened.
Well, let me just. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Now that we're on video, I got to make sure that doesn't happen. I guess
I've never worn pants while recording these things. So.
Let me just pan this camera down a little bit. No, I thought that it was funny that people were chanting for Gatorade to offset Logan Paul. That was funny.
Yeah.
I Show Speed, though, he got involved. He ate an RKO on the commentary table for his effort, because as we've all established in the past, when you do an RKO on top of the commentary table, it hurts more. Never understood that logic whatsoever, but whatever. And Logan Paul retains, which I was like, this was one of the matches where I was like, Logan Paul should win. Maybe it's Kevin Owens. And I, before the match, was still thinking that Kevin Owens was going to win, especially when it came down to the Sami Zayn thing. I was like, okay, this is going to be, a lesser version than Eddie and Chris Benoit, where they both win their titles and all. It's like, I guess we're going to have like the mid-card titles are Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and that's going to be Triple H kind of putting a little stamp on the mid-card of like, these are two of my guys and I'm putting belts on them. And then as the Logan Paul thing happened, I'm like, well, I guess if that would have been a little bit more true, we probably would have seen DIY win the tag titles too. And the fact that it didn't happen, in the grand scheme, I'm okay with it. And, sticking around with Logan Paul. He's, as much as I don't like the Logan Paul of it all, the guy's fucking entertaining in WWE, so I can turn a little bit of a blind eye in that way.
Yeah, I have no issue with him holding on to the title. As I think he's proven himself to be a very entertaining act as a heel and as a wrestler in general. So I have no problem with him holding on to the title. But yeah, I just wish that he wasn't a douche.
Who do you think right now is probably the next United States champion?
LA Knight is probably still going to win it, I think.
It's seemingly still an option, even though the stuff I was just talking about earlier, that he's like probably waning down. But maybe they just planned on not necessarily having that happen at WrestleMania, and maybe it's going to happen at Backlash or King and Queen of the Ring. Which, when we get into maybe the hot tags next week, or maybe we'll talk about it in another fashion, I'm going to have to start trying to think of like who could be the King and Queen of the Ring, and we might get like King LA Knight or something instead. But as far as this, one of the best matches of the night, I wish I could say that I loved the next match as much as I liked this one. But that was the women's championship match. Io Sky defending against Bayley. Bayley came out with like this very Egyptian thing. Am I missing something? Is there like a connection to this?
She's kind of had some Egyptian motifs in some of her attire and entrances beforehand. I don't think that she is like from that area, but I think she's done that kind of
like she just really likes
pharaohish, that pharaohish aesthetic in other things. I think WrestleMania 36, and it's difficult to remember because obviously that's the one that we'll try and forget happened. She came out wearing that kind of aesthetic for her women's championship match there.
Did she have, was it like a predominantly white outfit, I think, with like stuff? Or
Yeah,
I know I can remember
Rhea's
like
a headdress thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, with like a headdress thing. Yeah.
The Chris LeClaire in the chat. Bayley's my favorite superstar. Frankie Boo. I thought this match was really good. I was curious about the whole Egyptian thing because I was like, I don't think she's Egyptian, and I don't remember if there's like any kind of reference to anything or something. I was disappointed that she didn't come out to her old theme, and then I started noticing that she seemingly has a new theme as well, and I couldn't tell you at all any bit of it because it was even more generic than the AJ Styles one. Like nobody's going to react to this one and know it's Bayley.
I think they will because it still has the little sting. I say sting at the start of it, but the
Sting's there.
No, but the
it's Sting.
But that kind of like that start of the damage control thing of like the kind of choir singing thing. I think that's still part of her entrance. So I think people will still recognize her coming out to that.
The Paramore thing didn't work out. I've said a million times before, I don't like really get invested in like bands and stuff, so I couldn't even tell you. I know who Paramore is, but I couldn't tell you any of their songs, so I don't know if it would have been like that's the go-to one to do. But
I know you said about the idea about her coming out to the old entrance. I know Rob mentioned about the idea of like having an old entrance or doing like that wacky inflatable arm tube men. I'm so happy that didn't happen. I think people need to let go of that. That is an old Bayley character. This is a new iteration of Bayley, and it's been this iteration of Bayley for a good, like, going on 5 years now. Like, she's never going back to that character.
Since she didn't do it here, she's not going to. I figured now is the only time that she would have.
And she never should. Like I say, that was a moment in time thing. I don't think that unless it's just like for a one-off, like special episode thing where they're doing like a retro thing, and she decides to go back to the old character for a one-off thing. Like she's evolved as a character now beyond that point.
The disappointing thing about that though is I feel like she's evolved as a boring character. Like I've not been invested in Bayley since. I'm like struggling to think of when the last time I really cared about Bayley. Like I appreciate Bayley. I think she has had some runs that deserve to get more credit. I also think she's had some runs that they get way more credit than was deserved. Like I didn't love the whole her and Sasha running everything during the pandemic. I thought that was just like frustrating as all hell. But like I think the last time I was really truly invested in Bayley was when she first came up to the main roster. Funny enough.
Well, yeah, because they ruined the character pretty much immediately as soon as she came in. Or didn't really do much. They just tried to do the same exact thing with Bayley as they were doing in NXT, and it didn't work because they just didn't seem to get it as well. I mean, I think I'm on the side of like I think Bayley has done excellent work since she's turned heel. I think that she's always been consistently a strong character. I think her in-ring work had been suffering for a little while because of the injuries that she suffered. But I think that her character work and her actual like performance in that regard has been, I'd say, far better as a heel than as a babyface.
I'm not super digging heel Bayley still from, now she's babyface, but like her past couple of years, I always felt we were kind of flat. And now that she, spoiler alert, that's not spoiler, it already happened. Bayley won the title. She beat EO. I am kind of already going like, I got a feeling I'm going to be waiting for the next champion for a little bit and not really loving this, but I'm way, way, way more happy if they were to prove me wrong when it comes to that. And the match itself was a match that I think was like a pretty standard match that maybe shouldn't have been in this spot. Maybe this should have been the second or third of the night or so. Maybe this arguably should have been in the spot that LA Knight and AJ Styles were. I think maybe that would have been better. It just was like a normal match. It was fine. I wanted it to be better though. I was a little bit disappointed in that front.
This was my match of the weekend.
The whole weekend?
Yeah, I thought this was better than the Gunther Sami Zayn match. This felt like a Stardom main event to me. I thought that they went all out. I think Bayley proved that she she may not be able to do it with the same level of consistency anymore because of the suffering that she suffered on her knees and stuff like that due to the like serious injury she suffered. But if she, on a big stage on a big night, she can pull out an excellent match. EO's always excellent. I think she kind of proved that here. I thought they had a really, really good match. The only thing that I don't like is that Bayley's finisher sucks and she needs a better finisher.
Awful. Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned that, I need to write this down as a note to myself. Worst finisher equals Bayley's rose plant. Because not a fan of that at all. She needs to get something else.
I think they did a poor job building this match. They started off really well with the whole Bayley turning on them because she was smart enough to realise they were talking shit about her, but then as the weeks went on, they got worse and worse at building it up. But I thought that they absolutely delivered in the ring. I thought this was the highest the crowd were up until the actual main event. I think the crowd was super into Bayley winning this.
They were singing the song, "Hey Bayley," ooh, ah.
Yeah, and you can see, like, in the moment when they kind of feel like, oh, Bayley's going to win, or, like, after she kicked out the moonsault and then was doing the stuff towards the end, like, you see the crowd, like, getting up and, like, jumping up in this. They're standing up, jumping up and down. Maybe that's part of the reason why I was, like, this is one of my matches of the weekend, or my overall match of the weekend, is because it felt like the crowd were just desperate for Bayley to win. And that fed into it. And they feel like they were into... which we brought up a little bit in terms of last night, the crowd actually felt like they were invested in the match. But what was happening in the match, the moves that were happening and the transitions and the flow of momentum, rather than just interested in, what the cool entrances were and then trying to see the finish. I think they actually cared about what was happening in the match. To be fair, I think the audience did that far more throughout this show than they did yesterday's show.
Maybe because they were just warmer.
Yeah, no, I know Michael Cole was bringing up the facts about the different meteorologist announcements and stuff, but yeah, I think that that probably did help. But the crowd seemed far more into this show than they were yesterday.
Could also be that it was night 2, and people are like, night 2 is like the bigger night kind of thing. Even though there's elements of this that weren't as big as last night too. Well,
I mean, this is the first time that the second night of WrestleMania has been better than the first one. I'd say in just an overall standard quality. I thought that overall night one was a chore to sit through because of all the breaks and stuff like that. But I think overall match quality was lower than tonight's one was. So yeah,
it's hard for me to remember a lot of those, like, the full cards, especially when it comes to like the COVID one, because that one's just it's all a mess. But like I don't remember for sure certain years which ones I liked better. I think I've probably just been like a mix between all of them.
37 night one was way better because of the Bianca and Sasha main event. It had several other good matches in that one. Realistically, 37, the only good match on night 2 was the triple threat main event, I think. And then
was Gunther, McIntyre, and Sheamus on night 1?
No, that was night 2 one. But then that that was also Cody versus Roman 1, which obviously ruined that night.
Yeah.
So yeah, that couldn't help so much. And night 1 of that show had the Kevin
tag
Owens,
titles.
the tag titles, and it had the Rhea and Charlotte match, and I think that was Logan Paul, Seth Rollins was on that one as well, and there was a lot of other good matches on it. You had
Frankie brings up 38's KO and Austin, Bianca and Becky, Cody, Seth. Like, that seems like it is a track record then.
Yeah, this is the first time that night 2 was definitively better than night 1. Like, I don't think anyone would look back and think that night 1 was better than night 2.
After this was I guess before we get into the next thing, I agree with the people in the chat. I think that the next champion probably is going to be Tiffany Stratton. What about you?
Yeah, that's a very good choice. I mean, she won NXT Superstar of the Year at the Slammies.
Mm-hmm. Which that was an awkward thing. Did you watch any of the Slammies?
No, because I had better things to do with my day.
It's like they did not have the A team working on the production for that. They pretty much started off with the teleprompter not working and continued to not have it work right. So there's lots of awkward things where it's like Kathy Kelly and Big E, and Big E's like this, like, teleprompter's not working. Okay. Just sort of, I guess I'm going to kind of ad lib a little bit here, and very awkward. Jokes weren't landing. It was like, that's easily the most cringy Slammy Awards that they've ever had. And that's saying a lot, but I liked a little bit of it here and there. Like I like Drew McIntyre's bit when he won Social Star of the Year, which we'll come back to, at some point with like maybe we'll do a hot tag thing or something. The point being though, with the around this time I had looked to see the whole thing with Drew McIntyre tweeting, and his response after tweeting out bored at work LOL, and after the cash in was just fuck. I'm like, okay, well, that's good. I like this bit. Snoop Dogg came back with the Eagles cheerleaders and the mascot to announce the attendance number 72,755 and the 2-night total of 145,000, and then he said 420. And it was 298 up on the screen. So if you even check back on the like end recap of the clips at the end of WrestleMania for this show, they have the audio of him going, the 2-night total 145,000, and they don't say the rest of it. They just cut it off. Yeah, I guess he was just like, and some other stuff. I don't know. I'll just say 420. It's a we joke.
Yeah, exactly. That was the reason why he said it. Probably.
Yeah, he said a good little thing on commentary too when he was out. They had said like, oh, do you want to stick around and we can just go to the back instead? You could do commentary for us. And he's like, you can't do what I'm going to do backstage while you're out here. It's like, yep, I know what he's going to be up to. But they had this like, celebration and stuff. It didn't feel like it was as important as it was the previous night. Like the Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce one I thought was kind of better. And then I was, locked in apparently enough that through the beginning of this, my wife says, you are so focused. And I went, huh? Because I was not paying attention because it was main event time.
See, like, I know you went into this obviously like doubting it and like assuming that Roman was going to win because like just having that mindset. Like there was so much going into this which took out every single element of Jeopardy for me out of this, beyond the fact that like it would just be like creative suicide to have Roman retain the title here. But it was just more about the fact that like the things they were saying, like the end of last night's show where basically commentary were just saying Cody doesn't have a hope in hell. There's no way Cody can win. Cody's screwed. He's lost. It's the bloodline already. There's no way he can win this. Just laying it on his thick, like the subtlety hammer going like haywire in that one. And then also they laid it in quite a lot in the promo packages leading up to it. It's like, if Cody doesn't win, he can never get another shot at the title while Roman's holding it. It's like, okay, he's like, it went from being, oh, I'm 99% confident that Cody's going to win the title here to I'm about 99.9999999 infinity% certain that he's winning the title here. Because, like, you laid it on so thick that he couldn't win, that it absolutely had to win. So,
and I completely psyched myself out of it. They got me enough that, like, I don't even know if it's necessarily that they got me or I got myself. Because I was like, last night at the press conference, Triple H was saying flat out, the story going into tomorrow is how can Cody overcome? And I'm like, they don't normally do that unless they're going to do something in the opposite way to be like, the story is this, and then we got you with the swerve and whatever. And then I see the announcement, at least, whatever validity that it is, that Jacob Fatu is signed to the company, and that he and I think Zilla and maybe Tamatanga as well or something were all in Philly.
They said Rikishi was there.
Oh, Rikishi was the other one. Okay. And I was like, okay, that's another thing that like maybe in their minds they're thinking, but we're bringing somebody in and that can be interesting. And the way that The Rock was talking about a lot of things last night, it was very much like, I woke up and thought about everything that we're doing here. And I thought that the best idea is this and all. And I'm like, he's really making this a lot about how he saved the day and that everything is revolving around him, to a point that, not calling The Rock a narcissist, but like putting that kind of pressure on that type of a character where like, narcissistic people will reframe anything to put themselves in a higher light. It's the kind of thing that, like, if everybody ends up having like a narcissistic parent, you can see that they're like, if you call them out on their bullshit, then it's like, oh, well, why are you making me out to be such a bad parent? Or like, I never knew that I was the worst parent in the world. And it's like, now you're playing a guilt trip thing. Like, there's very much like, that kind of mentality. So the more that I see that somebody hypes themselves up as like they're the savior and they're whatever, the less I believe that they can ever be humble about anything. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I think that in their minds, they think if they go with this big swerve or something, that it's definitely the most interesting thing, because it's too boring if the obvious thing happens. And it's a history of WWE just going with like, what could we do that's interesting and get people talking? And maybe the biggest thing heading into Raw is what are they going to do next if it's not this story? And then I see the thing about the Air Jordan sponsorship thing with Roman Reigns, and I'm like, they're not going to go with that big of a promotional thing and have it be the guy who's not the champion on top of that. And I was just getting the sinking feeling, and it hindered a lot of my excitement for the night, because I was kind of just like, oh, now I'm just nervous about the main event again. The opposite of what I was last year, to the point that even like in our fantasy league predictions, I'm like, I got to change it because it's going to be Roman. Like, it's just, I'm not feeling it at all right now. I got a little bit less of that when Cody's entrance happened. He's got this like pretty cool skull helmet thing, and Brandy's by his side. And I don't know what she said, but she said something along the lines of like, you deserve this or whatever. And I could see him getting like real like upset and whatever. And I was like, okay, maybe this is the good type of upset. Like, he's like pumping himself up, excited. Roman's got a great entrance right now. That's one of the only things that's listed on my best entrances of the year. He's got this choir. They did a good job like making that feel like this is like this epic kind of thing. I think way better than Cody's entrance. Actually, a little bit disappointed in Cody's entrance. I thought that they could have done something a little bit better.
I guess the big thing for Cody was like that the mask that he came out with, and then the fact that Brandy was there as well.
First time we're seeing her.
Yeah.
Like officially, kind of, she's been in like documentaries and stuff.
But then maybe it could have been real special. But I kind of like the fact that it was a little bit understated. The same thing. I mean, the Roman one was like a good entrance as well. But to be fair, I was kind of like more just on the high of the fact that this was starting at like 3:00, and so I knew it couldn't go. He couldn't go like hours and hours at this point.
It wasn't going to be a 2-hour match, yeah.
Oh no, I was worried at that point. I thought they're going to go over an hour. This one,
I was actually thinking, I'm like, if they don't want to end this a little bit earlier, then maybe their plan is to make this 60 plus minutes, and that it kind of goes down in history as like one of the longest WrestleMania matches of all time, on top of whatever else that they have in mind. Of course, I don't know exactly how long. Did anybody have like the let's see if they have the time of this actually on Wikipedia by now.
It's about 33 minutes. 33 minutes, it said.
It's 33:25. Yeah, so we'll come back around to that with the fantasy league stuff too. It
won't matter. It won't matter.
Yeah, I didn't think that it probably would. That the match itself, go back and watch it. There's like the disaster kick out, the crossroads, whatever like that. Nothing really to talk about outside of just they were doing a normal match stuff until we get into, I think, the first time that something happened in this match that really was like noteworthy to talk about. Roman hitting the crossroads on Cody, getting, of course, a 2 count. And then I like that he was trash talking afterward, and he's like, I just wanted to rub it in his face. I love whooping his ass. That move doesn't beat anybody. And I was like, all right, good heel work. I like that. Later on, Roman would get hit with a spear from Cody, so it's like you're balancing out that equation with another 2 count and all. I liked that they did this whole thing with like, it was weird that they brought into the crowd just to do that little vertical suplex segment. I don't really know what that was all about. That was kind of strange to me. But I liked that finally somebody got put through the table with the Roman Reigns power bomb and like kind of shield style. So it was like cool. The table is not indestructible from tonight. And we get to Crossroads number 1, starts leading into Crossroads number 2. Jimmy Uso interferes, gets a super kick off. Jey Uso comes out. They start brawling. Spear through off the stage, go through a table. Roman hits a spear, 2 count. Goes for a guillotine. Cody tackles him. They go through the outside stuff. And by the time he gets Crossroads number 2, he goes for Crossroads number 3. Solo Sikoa comes out, nails him with a Samoan spike, drags Roman over to Cody. And at that point, I wasn't thinking like, this is the end of the match or anything. I was still like obviously nervous of what was going to be the outcome, but I was like, all right, well, he's got to kick out. Like, clearly they're not going to do the exact same thing as they did last year. That would be beyond ridiculous. But he kicks out. Solo still keeps it going, and Roman hits a spear. And I'm like, oh, they're actually dragging this out a little bit longer than I thought. Probably somebody would have came out at this point. And then John Cena's theme hits. And that's the first moment where I went, okay, they're going to have Cody win. Real quick, Ashton with another super chat here. Thank you, Ashton. Dwayne is an asshole. He's trying to take credit now for the pivot. Haha, fuck you. I agree with Rob in that he goes, hi, I'm playing the heel now. Yeah, it's a little weird how he's approaching doing this and just being like, I am playing the heel. Let me take you on this ride and let me be in character and out of character in the same moment. That's a little bit strange. What do you think when Cena came out? Anything sparking you? Maybe not necessarily the same, but like, what do you think about Cena's involvement?
I knew he was going to come out, and he did what I expected him to do, which is take out Solo, and then have a stare down with The Rock, and then probably get taken out by The Rock, and that's kind of what happened. So I saw pretty much the only thing that I didn't see coming was the fact that what we'll talk about next, but that's only because I expected it to be someone else. But pretty much in terms of what happened, it was exactly how I envisioned it going.
Yeah, Cena hits the attitude adjustment on both Roman Reigns and Solo, takes Solo out of the equation through that. The Rock comes out, we get a holy shit chant, little stare down, you can't see me, immediately goes into a rock bottom. And at that point, I'm waiting for Stone Cold Steve Austin to come out. I'm like, okay, now the, big Stone Cold thing. And I'm like doing the math in my head. I'm like, all right, Stone Cold. And then maybe they throw in Jacob Fatu and maybe, all this kind of like bouncing around. Do you ever be in a situation in like class in school where they're like, okay, we're going to read like one by one and you count how many paragraphs until it gets to you or something. I'm like trying to jump ahead of the game. Yeah. And I had completely forgotten about Seth Rollins at that point. So The Rock comes out, does his whole thing, takes out John Cena. Rollins comes out though with the Shield music.
This was hilarious. This was so, because he comes out, the Shield music, and he's coming out and he's going to swing for The Rock with a chair, and then Roman immediately takes him out with a Superman punch, and he just lies there flat. Seth Rollins had the worst WrestleMania weekend of all time.
He walks out of WrestleMania losing the main event of the first night. His wife loses the first night as well. He goes into the second night, loses the match, and to kick it all off is crying. And then it's not even like that guy continues to be the champion afterward. It's somebody else just comes in and does that. And then he gets his ass kicked in this too. But then The Undertaker comes out, the gong goes off and the lights go out. And that was not at all what I think any of us saw coming, because we all assumed it was Stone Cold Steve Austin that would do that.
Yeah, I guess that they decided that, Undertaker's in town and he's so associated with WrestleMania, let's just do the moment with him instead.
Or maybe they couldn't get Austin. Maybe he had like some kind of scheduling conflict or something, which would be like kind of surprising to be like, nah, I don't think I'm going to be a part of this. I think I'll do with this other thing instead. But it felt a little weird because it's like, well, it's Rock and Austin. Yeah. And like, if it's not Rock and Austin, it's Rock and Triple H. And maybe that would have been a little bit too on the nose if it would have been Triple H.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, so I don't know if it can be Triple H because I don't know how physical he can even get anymore.
True.
So So yeah, they decided to go the Undertaker. That was a cool moment to hear the gong go off and stuff. And yeah, I say he does have some history with The Rock. It's just not as prominent. So
yeah, and it's like, you know, Taker is one of the gatekeeper types, and I could see where they would be like, well, if we can't get Austin, or if we need an alternative to Austin, yeah, he probably is the next best option when it comes to that too. And you know, crowd of course goes absolutely nuts. Friend of mine, Chuck, is like an even bigger Undertaker fan than I am, and he just lost his shit because he was there. So of course that was a huge thing for him. And that 316 tease that people thought was happening with Triple H posting something earlier today on Twitter ended up not being Stone Cold. But after Undertaker takes out The Rock, the lights go out and all, and it's just Cody and Roman in the ring with a chair and the weight belt. At least as far as I'm aware, because I just do not realize that Seth Rollins is there. And apparently Roman did, because he picks up the chair and decides, I'm going to hit Rollins back the way that he hit me in the back with that, get a little bit of payback, which is enough of a distraction for Cody to then block a spear afterward, hit the crossroads, hit the second one, hit a third one, and they do the thing that we were talking about last night, the whole setting up. You do 3 crossroads leading into the win. He wins. The crowd goes fucking nuts. Huge pop. We get the big celebration at the end where Randy Orton and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Jey Uso and Brandy and John Cena and LA Knight are out there. LA Knight kind of stood out as like, okay. But he is one of the most recent people that was having issues with the bloodline, so I guess they were doing it that way. And he's just a babyface, so they all like lift Cody on their shoulders. You've got the family members out there. CM Punk joins eventually as well. Seth Rollins is in the mix too. Cole was very like choked up about the moment, saying like, "Damn it, I love professional wrestling." One of the very last things that he had said was like, sometimes this business just gets you right in the heart. It doesn't get any sweeter than this. They had a little moment, Cole and Cody together. Brady Lee Jr. is in the ring too and all. 2 more people get invited to the ring though. Cody invites Bruce Pritchard and Triple H. And yeah, they kind of celebrate some more, and it ends up like one of the last things that happens is a brief moment with Seth Rollins, which I always want to know what these people say, because like I want like a lip reader to kind of break out like what was being said there. And Frankie points out to Samantha Irvin getting like choked up giving the announcement and stuff. I wanted WrestleMania 10. I got WrestleMania 10, so I'm happy. Like huge, like okay kind of thing. Like whatever happens going forward, I'm on the ride. They got me. Yeah,
it didn't do anything for me. I'd say like it was too much. I'd say like the cool spots of the people coming out and like the Vengeance thing, that was totally fine. That was what I expected. But I guess I was so anticipating of it that it didn't do anything like, oh, this is crazy. Like, because I just I knew all this was going to happen because you pretty much told us that all this stuff is going to happen. But yeah, and then I'm just not. I'd say I'm not as emotionally invested in Cody. Like, I think he's like the right choice to be the top babyface and the right guy to win the title. It's just that, you know, hearing all the like Samantha Irvin crying on the announcement and Michael Cole going crazy on commentary and like all the people coming out, I just thought, oh, this is all a bit like, yeah, like it's like it's too much. Like I say, the last time I was super invested in a guy winning the world title was Hangman Page beating Kenny Omega for the title, and it didn't feel. It felt that one. I don't know. There's something about those things that makes it feel a bit more organic. I don't know what it is. This felt very synthetic. I don't know. And I think the reason for that is it just felt like, I don't know. Again, maybe it's just my experience of it and my experience of WWE, because like I'm sure other people felt that moment and felt that emotion. So maybe I'm just like jaded in that regard, and that's like I've been jaded from WWE for a long, long time. But it's just a case like I almost see like someone holding a cue card in front of Samantha and says like, "Now cry," And like Michael Cole, has his script in front of him. It says like, say this with a lot of emotion, and rather than like him actually feeling that way, it's more like it just comes across like just reading it off the cue card, like actors.
Like it's very like what you would imagine. It played out exactly how it could have if you just wrote the whole thing.
Yeah, and I'd say I was like, and part of the reason also about it as well is that I don't feel invested because I had this match laid out in my head pretty much since Cody won the Rumble, or I'd should argue to the point where Cody finally said that he was going to face The Rock, because they obviously didn't break up any of that stuff about him originally relinquishing that thing to The Rock.
No, they do not acknowledge that at all on any of these video packages and stuff. They skip straight to the press conference stuff every time that they get into that.
Yeah, so I didn't feel like there was any jeopardy involved in it. So I thought the match was a foregone conclusion. I thought it was a worse match than the one they had last year, which didn't help either. I thought the match they had last year was actually really good. I thought this one was, the big smoke and mirrors Civil War thing that we expected, but I think that harmed the actual quality of the Roman and Cody aspect of the match. So yeah, it still holds it in my head that they should have just done the title switch last year. This, as cathartic as it might be for certain people, didn't do anything for me in particular. I thought the match was, was good. I just don't. It wouldn't be. It would probably be like in my top 5 for the weekend, but it wouldn't be much higher than that.
I think bell to bell, if you ignore like all the stuff that is like surrounding it and all, I could see definitely people being like, "Nah, it's not the best match of the weekend and all." Frankie, pretty much just saying exactly what I was about to say. It was a moment match rather than like a match. It's for the moment stuff itself, and it's kind of the way that like, some people talk about like Hogan and Andre, and it's like Hogan and Andre is not a good match.
No, it's
a moment.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, absolutely. But so as I say, like I'm sure for loads of people, and you can tell by the reaction that it got in the arena, that for loads of people this was like this was finally this moment we get to see it. This title reign, this long, never-ending title reign is finally over, and we have Cody in front of it. I'm just like, as I both by a mixture of my jaded nature towards WWE in general right now, and also the fundamental thing that I believe that this is the beginning of the end of this hot period for WWE, with Cody being the champion. Because I think people realise, as I said, but people will come to the assessment once Cody is out, like the bloodline's now kind of like done for the time being, or is temporarily out of the way, that Cody's pretty bland as a babyface.
I don't know exactly
or let's say, not that he's super bland, but he will do the emotive thing in every feud, or he'll do this kind of like these very like emotive and crying promos and stuff, and people will get bored of it until they can find. And I think by about 2-3 months in, it's going to feel like when Seth Rollins won the title from Brock Lesnar a few years ago.
Yeah, I can definitely see that potentially happening, because there's way too many instances of that happening over the past, like, Dolph Ziggler wins the title and everybody's like, oh my God, Dolph finally won the title. And very quickly people are like, I mean, he's not really going to be the champion. Like,
I mean, I'm kind of hoping, because one thing Dusty Rhodes knew a lot. I know they've like laid on thick about Dusty Rhodes never winning the WWE title when he got to hand the title to his mother, which was like, that was a nice moment. But the one thing Dusty Rhodes knew above all else is that there's more money in the chase than in holding the title.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there is a very, very real possibility that Cody doesn't hold this title very long.
I would say it would be a massive mistake, not knowing, of course, what they have planned in the future and all. Like, none of us know, and they don't even know. A year in advance, they didn't even know what they were doing for WrestleMania with January 1st with the whole Rock thing. But I think that it would more than likely be a mistake if they try to do some like Cody holds it until WrestleMania next year.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to drop the belt. Maybe he drops it to Gunther and Bash in Berlin, or maybe he drops it at SummerSlam to Randy Orton or something. Like, he shouldn't still be champion by Survivor Series.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But I think that it's a case of, it'd be interesting to see, because we never, last time Cody held a world championship of any sort was Ring of Honor, because he obviously ruled himself out of ever winning the World Championship in AEW.
Was the Ring of Honor one before or after the NWA?
Oh, I guess the NWA one does count. Yeah,
not that it's super invested in that or anything.
Well, the NWA one may be a good example of it because he held the NWA title for about a month or so.
Yeah, and traded it back to Nick Aldis, and they had their big moment at All In, and
then he lost it straight away, on some NWA show. And then, the Ring of Honor one, I think he held for a few months, but he didn't hold it particularly long time. I think it would just be interesting to see what he is kind of like as the de facto top guy of the company holding their top title.
In this definitively declared, at least from their perspective, new era of we've got a new intro. We're calling it the Paul Levesque era, which, I mean, like we said yesterday, you got to wait until the era's over before you really say what it is.
But we'll talk about that as well. But there's also the obvious fact that he's going to have a match with The Rock.
He should, yeah,
because The Rock pinned him the previous night, and it would be a huge match. And that's basically the big match they built up leading into this WrestleMania is Cody versus The Rock. So they're going to have that match. It's just when they can have that match, and at least according to what I've seen from Meltzer in terms of The Rock scheduling, in terms of movies and stuff, he has to go and play Dwayne Johnson for a little while. They probably won't be ready up until the second Saudi show of the year, which is obviously looking more into October, November time. Yeah. So, and Cody won't lose the title to The Rock, I'd assume. I don't assume Rock will win the title. He shouldn't be the guy that beats Cody for the title. But then again, Rock and Cody doesn't need to be a title match.
No, it could just be
Rock could cost Cody the title.
Yeah. They could do a lot of things here. You go back a year and a half in particular ago, and we were thinking that the lineup could be, I don't think any of us really thought that we'd be walking out of Mania this year with Damian Priest as the world heavyweight champion, because that belt didn't even exist last year at this point and all. But I would kind of lean towards, I don't think Damian Priest is holding that belt for super long. I don't think that Cody's holding it super, super long either. After having Roman hold it for 3.5 whatever years, and Rollins holds it for nearly a full year, and Rhea is still champion after a full year of WrestleMania now, and Becky was a champion for the long time and all. We've had a lot of championships that, if you don't count shit the North American title and all that stuff, certainly if you don't count the 24/7 title, but we've had a good number of championships that have been long title reigns in the past few years. And I think they're going to reach an era right now where they're going to play around with that a little bit more in 2024. And maybe we see 2, maybe even 3 title changes around this time frame. Money in the Bank is going to change things up a little bit too. You never know who's going to win that, and if they're going to have to pull that trigger on anybody, depending on if Drew McIntyre is re-signed, what they go with there. I don't even know who I would pitch as the first person to challenge either of these champions. You would think that it would be Drew McIntyre would go up against Damian Priest, and he might just do that, and he might just win. And then with Cody, I'm well, solo or rematch with Roman,
well, Cody has to go to SmackDown now, presumably, because he's now the SmackDown World Champion.
I would think so, yeah. We don't know, they didn't clarify when the draft is, but Roman, Triple H had said within a month or 2.
Yeah.
So they could, I guess, play into the whole have people bounce around and continue to do stuff the way that they've been doing for WrestleMania. But right after you split the tag titles, you think that there's probably going to be a little bit more of a brand split. So Cody being on SmackDown in the meantime, I mean, I doubt that it's going to be let's set up Karrion Kross to be his next opponent or something. Maybe they have some people up in the wings that they're waiting to pull a trigger on for Raw tomorrow night, or maybe Brock Lesnar comes back and attacks him for all we fucking know. It could be that, but I'm at least excited for the idea of all right, we don't have to be beholden to one thing going forward. We can get 2 new champions, we can get a whole new title picture, we can get whatever their game plan is for over the next year. I'm still thinking that it's going to be rocking Roman. Whether it's for the title, whether it's for the head of the table title, not like belt, but like the, call yourself the head of the table. I don't know how they get to that point, but I'm excited more now about the Bloodline storyline than I've been in a little while. Because what does Roman do when he's not champion? Outside of take the next couple of months off, which is probably going to be the case.
Yeah, probably. At least in the initial part, yeah. So yeah, now we've kind of like talked about WrestleMania in general. Get to this point, which I think I want to read this tweet out because it definitely caught my eye from Trevor Dame, who does put out some like pretty funny tweets from now to time again. This WrestleMania weekend was, from beginning to end, all about reinforcing over and over again that there is one man that is the new center of WWE. And then when Triple H was done with that, Cody did some stuff too.
Yeah, they are harping on the Triple H era.
I find it pretty nauseating, if I'm honest, because it's totally fine to say like Triple H is doing great things, but the fact that they're naming an era about it, everyone is calling about it. Like Cody's called about it, like Steph called about it in her promo earlier. Even Triple H is calling out to it, and everyone else is saying like, "Oh, this is a brand new era for WWE." It's like they are laying it on so thick that it's like, because now like it's now Paul Levesque era TM essentially, and it's like it's different. I know people like comparisons, like people talk about how great Tony Khan is all the time as well in like AEW. It's like, yeah, but like it's not like they're fielding that in as part of like the storyline, or like that's like they're not saying like, oh, Tony Khan. Like, this is the Tony Khan era of professional wrestling. He's now here. I know people tweet about the idea, like, AEW saved professional wrestling. And frankly, it did. Because, like, you needed to have an alternative out there. Or at least a top-level alternative. But considering, especially what WWE were doing at the time that AEW was formed in the first place, you can argue WWE is now at a higher level than, or always has been at a higher level than AEW, and is now creatively more satisfying than AEW is. But AEW has helped wrestling in many different ways beyond the fact that the stuff that we talk about on a regular basis. But then just to like have this whole like, this is the Paul Levesque era, and Cody, like this is Cody's big celebration. This is Cody winning the title, and the last thing he says is introducing Triple H to the ring, and so like he's the guy who's made all of this possible, who's leading us into this brand new era. I'm the world champion now, and this is a huge moment for me. But this is the guy that matters most, it's Triple H. And it's like, I don't know, it feels like maybe it is just complete like a general consensus, and people and the whole company feeling like super motivated and super positive about the new direction that things are going in, and having like this huge groundswell of support of Triple H. And then part of me believes that, and then part of me also believes, this is the same guy that was like, who had the Reign of Terror, yeah. And maybe he's just like putting into people saying like, yeah, please tell them that I'm running the ship now. I need people to know. I need everyone to know that I'm doing all of this. This is entirely my direction. This is entirely my thoughts and beliefs. So just go out there and say that I'm the reason why you're so happy right now, and that we're getting all this good stuff. It's all me. And then
it's like the Hogan must pose, and they like add that in there. Like Triple H goes, and why don't you add a little thing in there where they say that I'm great?
Because it just feels too orchestrated for it to feel natural. That it's just too many people saying it, and too many people saying a very similar thing about it, all the way from Paul Heyman saying it at the Hall of Fame speech up until now. All the interviews they did with Triple H at the start of this, like there were 2 long interviews they did with Triple H in the kickoff shows, with talking about what they were doing for WrestleMania and all the plans moving forward and all that stuff. So there is a concerted effort. There is a driven narrative that they're building behind Triple H right now. And whether that is everyone is totally on board with that and everyone agrees with it and they're all going with it anyway, but it feels manufactured, which doesn't feel good.
I pretty much agree with you. Like, it's the type of thing that like, I appreciate the sentiment that they're going by. And like you said, like if they really are just like so fucking excited that they can't help themselves, that's one thing. But when you do say something enough, it becomes very ham-fisted, and it becomes very much like a good equivalent, I guess I would say, is like if a movie ever announces itself more than one time in particular, even if it's just once, but that's already suspicious to me. But if it does it more than once, that it's fun for the whole family, I immediately go, it's not funny. Because it's like, it can't be, because you're harping on it. And if somebody is like, oh, this is like the best thing ever. No, it's totally the best thing ever. I swear to God, it's the best thing ever. I didn't see The Matrix for years because I heard from everybody that it was the revolutionizing film in cinema history. And when I finally saw it, I was like, it's all right. Pretty good. Yeah. But holy shit, my God, it's slow motion. Can you fucking stop jerking off to this? And like, I feel like that's what like we got with AEW doing the whole, we're the alternative and we're like rebellion kind of thing. But that was spread out a little bit more. Whereas they did like several months worth of it, 2 days worth of it today. Like they were really just like multiple segments and stuff. We got the new intro. We got a lot of things that already would have told you that. And like, you get the new intro, you get Cody change, the title change. You get a couple other, like we've seen Kevin Dunn's not here. The production stuff is like way more interesting, and they're trying to figure out some new things. And we've got the ability that people can say pro wrestling and not get fined for it. And, you know, America the Beautiful is not there and all this other kind of like, we're getting these hints towards that. And they would have already spoke volumes as it is, but to have every kind of like, it's the Paul Levesque era thing does kind of get where you're like, all right, I fucking get it. Can you show instead of tell?
Exactly. Like just show based on the quality of this WrestleMania and the different changes in production, all the other stuff. Like that should be the iteration. Say like, okay, this feels different. This company feels like it's in a different direction, and clearly Triple H is the head of creative for it, so he's in charge of it. But Triple H is just all over these shows in so many different ways, beyond just like his own creative like booking and his touches in the either matches or the storytelling leading up to it. But it was just a case of like he was plastered over everything. People were talking about him. He was doing multiple interviews leading up to it, and yeah, I just think that he kind of overshadowed everything in a weird way. Beyond obviously the Cody thing still stood out on its own, and lots of other things happened. I'm not saying that all those moments were completely overshadowed by Triple H, but it felt like all those moments were presented in a way that it was all made possible by Triple H. Yeah. So yeah, I think that, and then I have a sneaking suspicion, not that we'll see. This ending segment with like Cody being surrounded by a lot of people, with Bruce Pritchard coming out, and then Triple H coming out, and then I believe right at the very end he's hugging Nick Khan as well. Yeah,
he was. Nick Khan was like around the entrance way, you know. Yeah.
I think in a world where there is a sexual assault case that's hanging over this company's head, where Nick Khan is named within the thing as corporate officer number one, as someone who knew what was going on, or at least like is intimated as someone who knew what was going on. Where Bruce Pritchard is a very well established Vince McMahon stooge and confident.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey even all the things she's been doing, yeah.
And Triple H is Vince McMahon's son-in-law.
And Stephanie McMahon being out there earlier in the night.
Yeah. That I think that this moment might, in the next year or two, might get ruined for everybody. because I could definitely envision a scenario based on what comes out with this lawsuit and other stuff that comes out in the meantime. And we'll see, because you know how these things work with entertainment, in the entertainment industry in general. But if certain things come out with it, that we could see some, if not all of those people no longer at the company in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Just depending on how big the shitstorm that's about to hit them comes their way. I think the likelihood is that Paul Levesque and Stephanie will probably survive. I think Nick Khan is probably in a strong enough position. Bruce is a dead man walking, but that's fine.
If I were to put money on which one of those four is most likely to not be around by WrestleMania 41, I think it would probably be Bruce. Yeah. But then again, like the fact that he even came out, like that they did that sort of thing is like, maybe there's more to that. Maybe they like having him around a little bit more than we would even think necessarily, because we kind of assumed back in the day that it was like, all right, well, once Vince is gone, Bruce is gone, Kevin Dunn's gone. Here's the lineup of like the Vince people, John Laurinaitis, another one of them, and it's like most of them are gone, but Bruce is still there. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to. There'll be at one point there will be someone who's released from WWE or someone who just leaves their contract at WWE that has a shoot interview talking about whether this is a WWE directive that they have to talk about the Paul Levesque era,
or if it's like a TKO thing where it's kind of like we want to drive the point home so much that like this is not Vince, that we need to kind of toss it out there to be like, it's Paul Levesque, it's not Vince, it's not fucking Vince, like, you know,
like whether this is a kind of a more just like a structured organic response to Triple H's development, or whether this is them TKO or WWE or whoever basically saying, you have to keep bringing up Triple H all the time in these things going forward. And maybe Triple H even, I say, like, I'm saying that I'm maybe coming across with the idea of saying like this maybe Triple H pushing that narrative, but it might be a case like he maybe doesn't even want to hear them talking about the Paul Levesque era all the time, but they're hammering it home because they want to try and rid the stink of Vince as much as they possibly can, and so they need a new front guy, and so they're just establishing it that it's Triple H. He's the guy. He's in charge of all this stuff now. Maybe he's going, guys, could we just calm it down a little bit? People know that I'm running the ship now. It's just like, no, somebody might have closed their ears for a second, and we need to hammer the point home that you're in charge of this and you're running it and you're the brains behind all of this stuff now. Kind
of like Cody saying that he was sick and tired of the finish of the story phrase.
Yeah, but I say we'll see how it. If WrestleMania was just like the main culmination or the main epicenter for all this, and then moving forward it's just going to be, you know, just business as usual. Like, just, okay, Triple H running the show now, and he's just going to let his actions or let the shows themselves speak for it. Or whether it's just going to be a case that at the end of every show, it's going to have like a big thing on the screen, a Netflix thing saying, all done by Triple H.
Kind of like how, for some reason, Georgia, out of all things, always has that like filmed in Georgia peach logo that pops up. It's just going to be like before the, you know, this has been a WWE presentation by Paul Levesque. And like, I think that's going to be interesting to see how much they continue to push that whole new era thing, or if it's just like, all right, they were doing it a lot for this weekend because it's WrestleMania, and then, you know, the Raw after Mania, I'm sure we're going to get some of that spill over too. That's going to be like, it's the first Raw after the new era of this, you know, this regime. And you know, it is kind of interesting that they went with like, it's the Paul Levesque era rather than like the TKO era or, you know, the Endeavor era or whatever it might be, because they're pushing him in like the prominent spot, and you never really know who and what can like influence things. And I hope that we're not going to be in a position where it's like, well, we can't call that the Paul Levesque era because of some kind of problem, and we need to call it the something else era. But who knows how long this era is going to go, or if it's going to be something that within a year we already look back and say it already started, or it hasn't even really yet. I would think that probably, if it hasn't started by now, it already did. But I do feel more confident about it. Like the people that were like, oh, if you end up hating WrestleMania, are you going to stop watching it the way that you don't watch Ring of Honor? Realistically, like, no, I mean, it's my job. So, you know, I can't not watch anything and all that. If that would be the case, you know, I'd have to figure out some other job. But at least like now I'm coming out of this going, all right, cool. I want to watch Raw. I want to see what happens next, instead of the way that it was last year, which is like, I don't want to do coverage of the next part of this story or whatever. I'm like, all right, I want to know who's going to fight Cody. I want to know who's going to fight Damian. I want to know who could be set up to fight Rhea Ripley in the future, if it's going to be like Liv Morgan or they got something else in mind. Even though I'm not super invested in Bayley, I want to see what happens with her title reign. How does Gunther spring back? What do we do with Sammy's IC title reign? Who's next up for Logan Paul? The split tag titles, I want to see new belts, you know. The NXT, we got the North American Championship for the women's division now, so it's like, that's kind of interesting going forward. Who do they put that belt on? And I want to see the next episode. So rather than skipping forward and recording it in advance and all, I'll probably just watch it live and, keep this ball rolling. keep me being happy about it, and I'll keep being happy on the podcast. And you're still not going to be watching the pay-per-views live, but I don't blame you for that if this is a lot of the downtime and stuff.
I mean, the second night was a much better experience. It was shorter. There was a lot less downtime between the matches, so it was easy. It was easier to manage. But just as a general rule, like a lot of the pay-per-views that I've watched recently from WWE, it's just too much there's just too much downtime in between everything to find a real kind of rhythm and enjoyment out of it. I say the AEW or Ring of Honor approach, just match, and long matches in a lot of cases as well, does need to have some fine tuning, and there needs to be a bit of a middle ground found. But it's by far out of the two versions the one that I prefer. So I'll lean more heavily towards that. If WWE change and go back to a bit more of a less sponsor-driven model, but based on this WrestleMania, that's far from what's going to happen. Then we'll see. But for now, I think that it's just the way the product is presented is not for me anymore.
Well, one thing that is for you is that fantasy league. So, yes. What breakdown do we have when it comes to that?
So yeah, I've got all the points laid out following WrestleMania thing. So we'll say what Rob got, because I might as well pretend that he was involved in this. He broke the four-digit barrier on the last night.
There you go, Rob. All right.
He finishes on 1,048 points.
Oh, I thought it would have been 1,001. I thought it would be pretty funny.
And then we get to the mad. So one person finished on 1,590 points. The other person finished on 1,611 points.
Not far off, yeah.
So only 21 points in between it. And your winner of the 2023-2024 Fantasy League season is Tony Mango.
Really?
Because Damian Priest cashed in.
Oh, shit. That won that for me? I literally pointed at you. I'm like, the winner is Cal. I'm okay with it.
No, because that got you, that winning a world championship on a show gets you on a pay-per-view, will get you 17 points, double points, 34 points. So Damian Priest got an additional 34 points for you, which took you above me. So if Damian Priest hadn't have cashed in,
different story.
I would have won. I would have won the
by an even lesser margin. Wow.
Yeah, so it was all down to the Damian Priest cash in. Obviously, other things as well, like Logan Paul winning got you the points for Logan Paul winning. LA Knight beat AJ Styles as well, so obviously that got you more points for it as well. So that basically a lot of things went in your favour for this particular show. So say WrestleMania changes things quite a lot when we do it. So
every year it seems like it's coming down to WrestleMania night too, right? Like I don't even think last year was really like that.
I do wish Rob would play the game sometimes, would actually show up, because you know what he's gonna do. He's gonna draft like in this next round we do it. He's gonna draft like.
It's gonna be like, I really feel like there's a lot for Carly Bright.
Yeah, and then like Stax is gonna do something great, and so yes, but we'll see.
Fourth round pick, Sol Ruka.
Yeah, in terms of the prediction contest for WrestleMania, so I won the prediction contest.
I think by like quite a margin, right?
No, by one result.
Oh, only one. Yeah, I thought they were like 2 ahead of Rob and like 3 ahead of me or something before.
I was 1 ahead of Rob.
Oh, okay.
I was 2 ahead of you going into this last one, and then I got some extra ones off the back of that as well. But me and Rob, I think, predicted the exact same thing for this night as well. So yeah, the only difference that we had is that Rob thought that Santos and Dominic would win. I went with Ryan Andrade, which is obviously the right result. So I
think we all got Gunther wrong.
Yeah,
I think we
all got
there was some that we all got right. Like I think we all said Rhea.
We all got more than half right. I think I got like a few. Like the ones I got wrong were got Gunther wrong. got AJ Styles wrong. You got that one right because you went Ballet Night. But even though you thought AJ Styles was actually going to win.
Yeah, I just kind of hedged my bets after I saw you guys voting that. I'm like, well, I'm not going to probably win because I'm already on the losing side of the previous night. So I'm like, well, let me just bet the opposite for certain things.
Yes, I think I only got a couple wrong in the grand scheme of things. But that will mean that I will get first pick for the next season of the Fantasy League. Rob will get the second pick, and then Tony will get the third pick, and then we'll do the snake style thing that we usually do.
See, that was strategic on my part. I'm like, I'm probably not going to be able to beat Callum's prediction. I might be able to beat Rob's, but if I do, I don't want to be the middle pick. I hate being the middle pick. So I'm like, I'd rather be the third. If I can't be the first, I'd rather be the third pick so that I can kind of balance that out a little bit.
Yeah, Rob has his excuse for failing next year as well, so that's good.
I'm setting him up. I'm being a good friend. I'm setting him up for...
Yeah. And so how we're going to approach that next year is what we did this year was like drafted like 10 people at the start, and then we just gradually grew it with every single pay-per-view cycle. What we're going to do this time around is we're going to draft 20 people, and then we're going to lose someone every single pay-per-view cycle from our team. So it's going to be like a more survivory style Big Brother elimination. Every single month with every single pay-per-view, someone's got to go from your team. But we're still going to have trades in between that as well, so people come and go from teams, but it just means the teams will get smaller and smaller, so you're relying on a smaller group of people to get you points towards the end of it. So you really got to make sure that going into the WrestleMania weekend, that you've got the right people left of your team, and you don't get rid of someone too early before they go on like a big run or get a huge push off the back of it. So it's going to be quite strategic, I think, next year's one. Yeah,
because that's like, all right, you need to keep people for Mania, so you got to make sure you've got people that could possibly be at WrestleMania next year.
Yeah,
and you don't want to get rid of them, but you got to keep them in the meantime, because you can't just wait until WrestleMania to be like, all right, well, I'm going to pick The Rock. What does he do in the meantime? Yeah.
And we're going to have some great rewards for like the for winning predictions contest, ranging from being able to like obviously make additional trades to your team in between pay-per-view cycles, to the point where you will be able to, if you win enough prediction contests, you'll be able to decide who gets eliminated from an opponent's team. So
a good fuck you to somebody who's planning on keeping somebody around.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of thoughts going on with that point. Obviously, we'll have some predicted picks, but as I say, I'll set up all of the rules and stuff, so you'll be able to find them on the Smark website once they go up for next year's one. Obviously, we don't start the Fantasy League in earnest until Backlash will be the first show where the points start to matter. So you've got like a bit of a downtime in between that now. We'll get to, and then we'll have a podcast episode where we're doing our draft of the teams, do like our typical draft style. And then we'll head off from there. But for now, Tony Mango gets to enjoy the victory of the Fantasy League for this year.
Bring on the cheers, everybody! Bring them on.
Yeah, I believe now I can't remember how many exactly we've done since I took over or we revived the Fantasy League. I think we've done like 4. I think I've won. Yeah, I think I've won 2. I think you've won 2.
I don't think that Rob won one.
That's why Rob doesn't get involved in this thing. He just
I'm excited to see what his picks will end up being. We'll probably do that around the 24th or so, because there's we got a blank week coming up. We have no plans for this next week. I haven't gotten that far ahead. And then we have AEW Dynasty, and then a blank week, and then Backlash. So somewhere in April we're going to be doing this before that switches over with Backlash. But yeah, we'll tell you guys more information about that when we figure that out. Of course, you'll find that on WWEFantasyLeague.com too. SmarkMoment.com. Go to the label of Fantasy League and you'll see some stuff posted there probably, but we'll give you updates on like the hot tags and stuff on top of that too. And yeah, I guess that's rounding us out for WrestleMania. So of course, keep in mind everything else that we say on a regular basis. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this. Subscribe if you are not already subscribed. Make sure that you stay tuned for future episodes of the post show by ringing that notification bell. Still going to try to keep this going with like the video stuff. I'm trying to look into like ways to make it even better and stuff. Like I still want to maybe set up my green screen and all, but it's a pain in the ass to kind of set it up behind me here and pack it away and all. So if I can figure out a quicker, easier way to do it, then maybe we'll do that too. Maybe more video content in the future too. Maybe some other stuff in the pipeline that we can get into that's just, the outside of the normal main events that we have. Maybe something coming up from wrestling news. I can't really talk about it right now. We're going to have to see how that plays out. But you might see me doing some more video stuff on that front. Of course, you check out everything on the link tree that you can find at amangotree.com. You'll see Fanboys Anonymous stuff. You'll see Smark Out Moment stuff. You'll see my personal stuff at Tony Mango. Follow all of that stuff if you haven't already. Greatly, greatly appreciate any kind of support on that front. Check out that Smark Madness tournament. Check out that Funko Pop contest that's going around. Subscribe on Patreon and the YouTube channel membership stuff for both Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous and stuff. Make sure you're also following Callum over there.
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. As I check out the power rankings every single week over on smarkandmode.com. This will be the next week's edition on Saturday. Will be the first of the new season with all the WrestleMania results taken into account. So check all that stuff out. And obviously the Fantasy League's on. It's a season hiatus for the time being, but make sure you tune in when we do the draft to see how our teams will start looking at the start of the season.
Okay, everybody, you know the score. Drop those comments below. Tell us what you thought about this podcast, what you thought about WrestleMania, what you're looking forward to going forward, what you might not be looking forward to going forward, what you think we should do for the main event for this week, since we don't have a game plan yet. If you think we should focus on something in particular, take those into consideration. As always, thank you for all of your support, and we want to thank you in advance for your support through the next WrestleMania season. So we'll see you in the next one, everybody. This is it for now. Adios. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.